Let's do the damn thing.
Oh, you know what time it is. It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope y'all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talking, they give it to you firsthand. They can talk Terps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Poe. Better tune in, here gonna show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
It's all about that BS, baby.
What's up, BSers?
What's up, peeps?
Fred, Scott, Ryan, and James in the house tonight. Drew is home. Got some family things going on, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's just the four of us tonight.
You didn't break out in a song?
No.
I'm so used to it when it's
just
four of
the
us.
two of us, right?
I know, but you usually shift it and go,
couldn't-
just the four of us.
I couldn't come with another song. Well, we got a lot to cover on tonight's show. The Ravens make some moves in free agency and re-sign one of their own, but it might not be the names you're expecting or hoping to hear, so we're going to dive into that. A trio of Orioles are playing hot, while a trio of baby Orioles
Playing even
also
hotter.
playing hot, continuing their dominance. Terps football program unveils their new indoor facilities, which are top of the top. Yeah, they're the best I've seen. So we're going to talk a little bit about
Straight fucking fire.
that. As good as it gets.
Eat that, Alabama.
You were on
that,
mute.
Alabama.
There it is.
Wait, it doesn't matter because we all heard Ryan without him being on mute.
And in this week's rundown, hugs, happiness, and history.
Some good things and some rich getting richer, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Before we do too much, though, we do want to remind you, if you've ever been injured at work or in an auto accident, weren't sure who to call, 855-MD-CRASH. The Maryland Personal Injury Attorneys that'll have your back. If you find yourself in an unfortunate situation, just like I have, give our team at MD Crash a call right away. We all know the cost of medical bills, lost wages, and pain and suffering. It all adds up quickly and can potentially put you in a bad financial place. If you want a team that'll handle your case, big or small, and just give you some peace of mind, save this number now. 855-MD-CRASH. It's 855-632-7274. Be sure to follow them on Facebook for some fun giveaways, including tickets to some minor league games and some upcoming Oriole games. All right, Scott, it's time for some flock talk. But unfortunately, we're going to start this with a little bit of some somber news, as we've had a couple of recent passings. Former Giants head coach and Ravens assistant John Fossil passed away today at the age of 71. For those that have been around for a while, you might remember John. He was actually the Super Bowl head coach for the Giants when we went to Miami and played against, or was it Tampa? I'm trying to think of where the first Super Bowl was. Tampa?
Tampa.
Yeah, it was Tampa, right? Super Bowl 35. We played against the Giants. John Fossil was their head coach at the time. Him and Brian Billick were actually really good friends, and he ended up joining the Ravens staff as an assistant for a few years. Never got back into the league as a head coach, but sad nonetheless. I mean, he was one of Brian Billick's best friends, even outside of football. Some sad news around John Fossil.
Yeah. Well,
thoughts?
you mean Jim Fossil.
Jim Fossil,
Jim
yeah.
Fossil passed away. John Fossil was the son that actually did work for
sorry,
the
yeah, I
Ravens
got that right.
for a little while.
Right.
But yeah, Jim Fossil, sad to hear him pass away. But obviously ties to the Ravens and the Ravens organization. So big piece there, not just for the Ravens and for the Giants, but just the NFL in general.
Right.
With his history.
And we also found out today, we had heard Pernell McPhee wasn't with the team. He was dealing with some family concerns. His grandmother, who helped raising him, was on hospice care. She had recently passed away, from what we're hearing. So our thoughts and condolences go out to Pernell and his family. It's another tough loss.
Yeah, definitely tough to hear that. You wish him the best. And John Harbaugh, like you said, kind of talking about it today. Apparently, Pernell was very, very close with his grandmother in his life every day. So thoughts to him and his family and the Ravens organization, because they feel for him too. So
right, exactly. All right, so some of the bigger news this week.
Another loss.
Yeah, another loss, another L for the Ravens. Depending on how you're looking at this thing, right? We've been talking about it for weeks now. The rumors have been rolling with Julio Jones. Is he coming to Baltimore? What is it going to take to pry him away from Atlanta? There's a lot of top teams in the AFC that were said to be kind of in the mix for him. What was going to be the right fit? What ends up not taking as much as some would have thought when you look at this package.
Not what anybody thought. what this deal wound up being.
Right. So the Julio Jones ends up going to the Titans for a 2022 second-round pick and a 2023 fourth-round pick. Titans get Julio and a 2023 sixth-round pick in return. Now, granted, Tennessee's having to take on his entire salary, which that's a big number.
Yeah.
It's not a number that the Ravens couldn't have made work here.
There would have been some restructuring that needed to have been done.
Right. But this Titans team, man, I mean, when you talk about physical and dominant offenses, right, just talking about the offensive side of the ball, this trio, A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, you pair them with Derrick Henry and one of the more productive running backs. I mean, he rushed for over 2,000 yards 2 years ago. And again, A.J. Brown, very physical receiver. Julio Jones, very physical receiver. This team is going to bully some defenses around for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to open up a hole. You open up A.J. Brown. I mean, A.J. Brown put up some decent numbers last year, given that he was the only other main real target down there in Tennessee. Outside,
right.
It was him and Henry. Now you put with arguably a top 10 weapon in the league opposite him,
right, in
this offense. It's that whole situation. We were talking about who you're going to cover on defense with the defensive line last week with the Browns. Who are you going to double team out of these two guys?
Right.
Because whoever you don't double team is getting the ball, and when they're not, Derrick Henry's going to get the ball because you have to have at least two spies on him at any given time. Like there's something that's going to be said about this offense for them, and they're building around just being a powerhouse.
Right. Ryan.
Yeah, that's the biggest deal is the Derrick Henry thing. I mean, Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones are not that far removed from this A.J. Brown and Julio Jones combo. It's two very good receivers.
Right.
The difference is Atlanta had no running backs, and Tennessee has one of the top 3 running backs in the league.
Right.
So it's just that huge, who knows what's going to happen. This offense is going to be really scary. Thank God their defense is no good, and we can take a shot with it.
Defense is trash. So that kind of brings up the next question that I wanted to ask you guys, because last week we dove into the cream of the crop in the AFC, right? Last week we talked about the top 4 teams in the AFC. Those top 4 teams being the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Browns, and who am I missing? The Bills. Those are the top 4 teams. We didn't mention the Titans. So my question to you is this enough to put them in the top 4? And if it is, who are you taking out of your top 4?
I don't think it's enough to put them in the top 4.
Okay.
They could be pushing it. They could be sitting on just on the outside of it. I don't see this pushing them in the top 4 because their defense is horrible. They have no defensive front. Their secondary sucks. They got burned half the year last year. It's one of those things that I look at it and I don't see their offensive line. I don't know. I haven't done enough research. Did they maintain enough of their offensive line to still have the production for Derrick Henry and give Tannehill a little bit more protection? Because you need to give him time in order to get the ball to Julio and AJ.
Right.
But you also need the ability to create the holes for Henry, even though Henry can power through most of them. We learned Henry laterally is not as effective as he is driving up the middle.
Right.
Right. And so I think if they've got all those same guys or secured up that offensive front, maybe, but their defense, it's going to start to be shootout type games. Right. They're going to have to be in, and I don't know that they can win it against any of those 4 teams that we just named.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't think they cracked the top 4 either. I think it's close. Obviously, this makes them
bubble 5,
this
bubble
makes
5,
them
6,
better. Yeah, they were on 5 anyway on the outside looking in, and I still think they're on the outside because of their defense. To your point, their defense is still very porous. They're going to be giving up a ton of points, and let's not forget, Ryan Tannehill is a much better Ryan Tannehill than he was in Miami, but he's still Ryan Tannehill. He's not, in my opinion, he's not a top 10 quarterback in this league.
He's an average quarterback in the league.
Does having a Julio Jones out there make him better? Of course. I mean, that's going to elevate everybody's play.
But it doesn't make him an above-average quarterback.
Right. And I do think that their offense is going to be a top offense in the AFC, yardage-wise, points per game-wise, but that defense is what's going to handicap them the most. Ryan, what's your take?
I mean, I look at it more as like a tier break situation here. We most of us, I think James was the one exception, had the Chiefs at number 1.
Yeah.
Which that to me that's tier 1. And then tier 2 was those other 3 teams we talked about, the Ravens, Browns, Bills.
Right.
And I think that tier just grew by 1. I think they're right in there with those 4 teams. And so that's the way I look at it. I don't know if I had to put a gun to my head, rank them 1 through 5, where it would be. Today, because of the reactionary factor, I would probably put them ahead of
Cleveland.
Either Cleveland or the Bills. I'm not sure which one. I don't even actually remember what my 4 was last week. But I'm sick of hearing
That's how close a lot of these teams are.
Cleveland's defense is so much better. I think it was them that the Bills were number 4 because they haven't improved some of it. That's what the argument was last week. That the Bills hadn't actually improved on what they were bad at, but they kept a lot of the pieces. So I think that if you put a gun in my head, they knocked the Bills down. But I think that really that those 4 are all about the same now.
So all right, so obviously one of the things that plays into this whole discussion was the fact that the Ravens were said to be a team that was interested.
Right.
The fans wanted it. The fans were clamoring for it.
Yeah. Rightfully so. Like I said, Julio Jones improves this offense even with what the Ravens did through the draft.
But for those of us who are realists, we thought it was going to take a lot because you had to not only figure out a way to take on some of the salary, if not all the salary, but you were also going to have to give up some of the future draft capital that you've built. And knowing how EDC was, he's not going to be willing to give up that much.
Right.
So the Ravens have, $10 million in cap space. They could have restructured a little bit of those contracts, especially we could have restructured with some of the extensions and backloaded some extension deals.
Right.
You could have done that with the Gus Edwards, could have gotten that deal done earlier and extended some of the funds into the next few years. But with that being said, were you frustrated at all that the Ravens didn't give up the same and get him? We don't know if they didn't offer it, but would you have been wanting them to give up that same amount for what it was?
The rumors were that the Ravens were out of it for a while now. And since the draft.
Right.
And I don't blame him. I mean, honestly, the Ravens have an estimated roughly about $10 million in cap space right now. To your point, could they have made it work with some restructures and whatnot? Yes, they could have fit him in. But the thing that you have to keep in mind is if it's a $16 million cap hit, right, there's $6 million that you have to make up just to make it work, just to make it
just to break even.
But what have I been talking about for the last, 3 or 4 months now about the Ravens going into a season?
Yeah, you would have needed to restructure $10 million worth of money.
You need to have an extra $4 million, $5 million above fitting him in to have that safety net going into the season. If a player gets hurt or you need to make a transaction, you need money to be able to fit guys in, you have to have some sort of a safety net. None of the smart organizations go into week 1 completely maxed out on their cap.
Well, and the absolute only other way that this could have even come into fruition at all would have been a handshake deal in the back room that if we would have gotten him, it would have been an immediate restructure and extension of his current contract, which then now you weren't in a win now moment. Now you're extending this guy a little bit further.
Right.
And you have other extensions you need to work on, like the Gus Edwards.
And
you need to work on.
He's 32 years old, right? How long are you extending a 32-year-old wide receiver? And is he the right fit wide receiver in this offense? That's still to be told. That's a big commitment to make, not knowing.
Understand that. But look at Ravens. This is the fan view, and I don't disagree with this. Look at Ravens' history of what we've done with guys in that exact moment. And with giving the extensions and what they've been able to produce for this team.
My counter to that is when you look at the Ravens' history of what they've done with bringing in veteran wide receivers, that was all prior to this offensive system. That was all prior to Greg Roman's offensive coordinator. It was a totally different time for the Ravens. And I'm not trying to shit on the Julio Jones to the Ravens thing. I was on board with it. Again, I'm not turning away a player like Julio Jones. It just had to be the right scenario. It had to be the right financial investment. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. I know, Ryan, you had something you wanted to say.
I was just going to touch on some of these fan things
here.
Go
for it.
So I think it was Nick Short said that the Steelers the Squealers are better than the Titans.
Oh, get out of here. Come on, Nick.
You're putting an awful lot of faith in Old Man Ben. If Old Man Ben magically his elbow was just bad for 1 year and he's back to Ben of 3 years ago, sure, they could be better, but I don't believe that. I think he is well on the downside. It's not happen.
I was watching some camp footage of him the other day, struggling to throw the ball 20, 25 yards.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. They're not better. And then Adit Mahood, he says that would you rather have the 27-year-old Corey Davis versus the 32-year-old Julio Jones? Says they're both making similar money, should have similar production. To me, Corey Davis wasn't much without A.J. Brown. Julio Davis was before. Julio Jones was before Calvin Ridley showed up.
Right.
So to me, I believe that I would still take Julio Jones, but I get the argument. They probably are similar in this moment, but just the name recognition will scare people off of doubling.
Corey Davis is the Ravens move there at 27 years old. You're thinking the future. This guy could be in the fold for a while. But if you're in that win now mode, which we've talked about, the Ravens are in kind of a win now mode when all these big contracts are coming up, I think Julio Jones makes more sense, and he's the seasoned vet. He's the more proven vet.
And I was just taking the comment, and maybe I was taking it wrong, but I guess my thought process was, what's he saying? Were they better with Corey Davis last year versus Julio Jones this year?
Right.
The Titans. Because if the Titans are
better.
About the same with Corey Davis versus Julio Jones.
Titans are better with Julio Jones.
Yeah.
Why are we so scared? But I agree with you. I think they're much better.
I don't think there's any. I honestly don't think there's any question about it. And you made the point perfectly. Is the fact that Julio Jones was Julio Jones before nobody else was around him.
Right.
Julio Jones almost one-handedly made Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was like the only offensive player on Alabama at that time. Alabama was not an offensive juggernaut. They were a defensive juggernaut back then.
Yeah.
They became an offensive juggernaut.
Right.
And Drew Nickerson giving me a hard time here. Julio Davis sounds like the greatest player created on Madden.
You see how he said greatest player? He wrote like a player created it.
All right. So the follow-up to this, right, is obviously the Ravens don't get Julio Jones. Can Bateman have a big enough impact as a rookie for it not to matter?
If he has years like some previous guys over the past few years have had, yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I think a lot of people are missing. I think a lot of people are, again, following what people are saying on social media is, for you to go out there and expect a guy like Rashad Bateman to come in and make a big impact, is a stretch. But if you just look in recent years and you look at some of these guys, the Justin Jeffersons of the world, the DK Metcalfs of the world, A.J. Brown, he's a prime example.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin. These are all impactful rookies that made huge differences in their first year.
Day one, they were making differences.
And all players we didn't draft and had the opportunity to draft.
100%,
Yes, exactly.
100% agreed. So hopefully we didn't miss the boat on Bateman, and we took him this year in the draft, and he is going to be that impactful rookie. My expectations for Bateman, I think, are a little bit more tempered than some. Some people want to see that big splash, 1,000-yard receiver. And honestly, I just think with the way that the Ravens move the ball around, the limited amount that the Ravens throw the ball, unless there's a huge change in scheme, I just don't see there being a receiver that's going to have over 1,000 yards in this offense. As it's structured right now, I could see him putting up the 800, maybe even 900 yards. If he gets to 1,000, man, that's a big win.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing that it's going to come down to is the connection between him and Lamar. If that's solid, right, which some of the things we've been hearing out of camp is a lot of people like Bateman and what he's been doing, and a lot of people are thinking that this is going to be something that moves forward for them, and it becomes a real juggernaut, real powerhouse that's going to need to be dealt with, and that's just going to then turn around and open up Andrews. It's going to turn around and open up Hollywood on the deep balls at times. So I think there's a lot to want here and strive for here,
right?
And there's a lot to hope for. But time's going to tell, because really, to me, it comes down to the connection. Why does Metcalf work so well in Seattle? Because he made that connection with Russell, which did take he didn't have the connection his first year that he had his second year. His second year, he was off the charts. His first year,
but he was still very impactful, especially in the second half of the year.
His first year, he was impactful, right? But the second year, he was a star player.
Yeah, I agree with that, 100%.
And that's what you want. If it takes that little bit that's there, the difference is you're kind of relying on and hoping that Bateman can be like a combination with Sammy Watkins to create that number one.
I think Steven brings up a great point here. He says, I just want Bateman to make contested catches. Who cares about how many yards as long as the Ravens get the W?
And Quan Bolden.
And you're absolutely right, Steven. The expectation, this is kind of why I say my expectations are tempered. If you're looking at statistics, because that's what most people do, people want to see the over 1,000 yards because it looks pretty, and that's what an elite of the elite do, right? In this offense, it doesn't need to be that way. We are a run-first offense, and even with a new scheme, we are going to be a run-first offense, right? And as much as we spread the ball around between tight ends and all our wide receivers and moving them around, not keeping them in one spot, you're going to see, I think, 3 wide receivers in that, if you're just talking yardage, in that 700 to 800 yard mark, in that 700 to 800 yard range. The biggest difference that Rashad Bateman can be is being that legit outside threat that can go up, make those contested catches that we haven't had, that we've hoped Miles Boykin would turn into and hasn't on Sundays. If Rashad Bateman can have that kind of impact in this offense, that takes this offense to the next level.
And yes, Drew, we saw it open up for the Riddler. I did say that, yes, he will open up Hollywood. Steven brings up a good question that I think some fans would like to get our take on. I think it's a slam dunk no matter what. I think he meant Watkins. How much different is Watkins and Jones? I mean, this is 2 different playing fields. This is a true wide receiver 1 versus a guy that's been a wide receiver 2 at best in any system that he's been in.
Yeah,
in college, they were both very similar. In the NFL, it's a different story.
If you're comparing these guys, Julio Jones is better in every which way. The only thing that Julio Jones might not be better in is in straight line speed, but even that I'd question, because I've seen Julio Jones, when a ball has been intercepted, run down a DB like he was nothing. So he's a better route runner. He's a more physical guy. He's just got a better football IQ. There's a lot more to like about Julio Jones other than the age. About the only thing that Watkins wins on is that he's 27, but he breaks down a lot. He doesn't stay healthy a lot. That's the biggest knock on Watkins, is that how many games can you count on him being on the field? And Julio Jones doesn't tend to have that issue.
No. We got to move on for a minute and talk about, we've been talking about the passing game. Let's talk about the run game, because the Ravens make a move this week to shore up the monster of a backfield.
Yeah, Gus Edwards, a guy that we had been talking about, was due for either a new contract. Well, he ends up signing a 2-year extension for $10 million, which, again, I pay way too much attention apparently to social media, but I do. I've seen some people are saying that they're overpaying for him, and my mind is just blown when I see this.
So people just see the number and don't understand what goes into it, that $10 million includes some of the incentives, includes some of the signing bonus. That's a $10 million total deal.
Even if you don't, right, if you spread this out, right, he is now under contract for the next 3 years, right, this year and the following 2 seasons he just signed the extension for. You break that down. So over 3 years, he's owed $13 million. That's $4.33 annual a year. We signed Mark Ingram, who was over 30 years old last year, to like a 5-year or a $5 million per year contract,
and got no production out of it whatsoever.
Right, and in this offense, to have that kind of impactful north and south guy who all 3 years has averaged over 5 yards per carry. Not many running backs in the NFL have been able to do that
and a lot of that in the past 2 years has been on third down. I mean, he's been a churner on third down for us.
And that's the biggest thing, right? So I saw a stat on Twitter, and it's running backs who moved the chains in 2020 at the highest rate. You had to have a minimum of 50 carries now. Okay. Moving the chains means every time that they touched the ball, it equated into first down. It didn't matter if it was a first down, didn't matter if it was second down, third down, didn't matter the yardage. What was the percentage that every time you touched the football, it turned into a first down? Listen to this list. Alvin Kamara, 31.6%. Guess who's second? Gus Edwards, 31.3%. Chris Carson, 30.5%. Le'Veon Bell, 30.2%. Jonathan Taylor, 29.7%. It's a pretty impressive list. It's not very many people that are on that list or that high on that list, and Gus Edwards is there. Well, go ahead, James.
Yeah. I just want to say, I heard today that it's technically a 3-year deal. So you get 2 years plus they have the option to sign him to another contract too. And then they have the breakdown. He's going to be making $3.3 million base salary this year. So it's nothing. And he can. I think it said he also has on top of where he can get incentives too. Like if he gets a Pro Bowl or whatever, that's
Yeah,
not
kind of on top of
the
it.
salary.
Yeah.
So, it's a good deal.
No, it's 100% a good deal. That's why I said, like, the first, again, everybody's emotional and, oh, we should have spent money on Julio. Why are we spending this money on, Gus and some of these other signings that we're going to talk to you about here in a second.
Well, I think he brings up a great point, right? It's 3.3 this year.
Right.
You've been paying way more than that for Julio, first off. And then the fact that, not only is this creates, we talked about this being a two-headed monster. This now creates a two-headed monster in that backfield. This shores up that backfield, and it's only just going to get better as we continue to see Dobbins. I know Drew is so high on Dobbins. We see him continue to get better. Now we start seeing shared carries. You don't have to ask Lamar to run the ball as much.
Right. The other thing that you got to factor in on this I thank you for pulling the number, James, at 3.3, but that actually saved us money against the cap this year.
Right.
So we actually gained money by signing him to this extension.
You restructure the money and spread it out.
Right. Go ahead, Ryan.
I just want to say this is social media, so you're going to get the old man, get off my yard. It's too much money just to play football.
Yeah,
so you have to, for the ones that aren't saying, like, the verse Julio Jones, that's too much money. There's a lot of people that just think paying anyone $1 million to play football is too much money.
Right. No, I completely agree. So the other move that happened today, this happened yesterday. I don't know. There have been so many things that have been going on lately. I can't even remember what day it happened. I think it happened yesterday, right? This one had a lot of people scratching their heads because they didn't understand it. They didn't know this guy's hurt. But the Ravens signed former Broncos offensive tackle Jawan James. This guy ruptured his Achilles in April, but they signed him to a 2-year deal. Still has to pass his physical with the Ravens, but it's not going to include his current injury, and there's no issues to be expected with this guy or anything.
Right.
And people saw this, and they said, what is going on here? Why are we wasting money on a guy who's hurt? But here's the thing. Offensive line help, especially good offensive line, doesn't come around very often. And when it doesn't come around cheap. Right. This guy's relatively young. I want to say he's like 30 years old at this point. Or might actually be a little bit younger than that. I think he might actually be 27 or 28.
I think he's 28.
Yeah, he's a little younger, right? But the way that this is structured to be a future deal. This is a future-thinking deal. Really, he's getting a $500,000 signing bonus this year, which is just a cap hit of $250,000 this year. So it's basically essentially costing the Ravens nothing this year. $3.25 million next year to come in and compete for that starting right tackle job with Villanueva. So Villanueva is getting up there in age. The Ravens still have that option of whether they're going to keep Villanueva around next year or do they cut him, right? This gives them another option to compete with that. Or, again, you're bringing this guy in at a very cheap rate at $3.25 million for next year. That gives you a guy that can play tackle. He can be that swing guy. He could play inside. He can play a little everywhere, and it gives you that depth piece.
So I get everything that you're saying. My concern is you're paying, and I get it's cheap money this year.
It's $250,000 against the cap. That means nothing.
Is it $250? I read $500.
$500,000 is a signing bonus, but $250,000.
I thought I read $500 against the cap this year.
$250,000 against the cap. I checked it twice.
Okay. All right. Well, then that's fine. I guess my concern is you're still signing a guy, and we could always wind up cutting bait with this contract later on, but you're still signing a guy with an injury that they're saying, and Steven brought it up just a second ago, said
29. Thanks, Garnett.
They're saying, it's 29. He was born in 92. He may be able to play in late November, early December, said coach. So
potentially.
So here's the deal with this. I went and looked this up, and I started looking NFL and ruptured Achilles. Average person, anybody in this room, ruptured Achilles
for the rest of your life.
4 to 6 months to get back to normal, what's considered normal activities.
Yeah.
The average in the NFL, is 11 months.
Right.
There's no guarantee he's even going to be ready for OTAs next year.
He should be ready. 11 months is pretty extreme for an Achilles, but if it even took 11 months, that's April.
For a guy that has to put all of his support on his legs at any given time.
That's April, May. He'll be fine. He'll be fine by OTAs. I'm not concerned about that at all. Again, I have zero expectations. I don't think the Ravens have any expectations of him playing this year.
We've already got one guy that's trying to come back from a foot injury here.
Scott, as the medical expert here, everyone,
and you use that term loosely.
Yes, very loosely.
I'm a doctor.
Everyone has to put all their weight on their legs at all times unless you're sitting.
Fair enough. Well, he's not fighting off another 300, 400 pound guy.
Well, the Ravens didn't stop there with adding offensive line help. Today, they actually signed veteran guard Michael Schofield, formerly of the Panthers.
Yes.
Another veteran, 30 years old, another big body guy. Ryan, we talked about how big this offensive line is going to be. 6'6", 301. He fits the mold of what they're doing on this offensive line. Mainly played right guard for most of his career, but has played a little at both tackle positions. So another guy that just adds versatility. And I think, honestly, this was a move to kind of put some fucking fire under some people's feet. Like some of these guys, we talked about like how much depth that we have. I don't know if it's good depth, but how much depth that we have on the interior, especially at the guard position. I think this is, one, it's a smart move because it didn't cost the team much money. 2, offensive line help is very rare. And 3, I think it'll help try to get some better production out of some of these younger guys that we haven't seen step up.
This had me scratching that other deal, scratching my head on this other deal more, right? Because you go and you get this guy who's versatile, can play everybody, right? Can play
He's
everywhere.
mainly a guard, but has played a little bit of tackle.
Right, but you're talking about versatility, right? That's what they want, and I know what you're talking about with the low end of the deal on James. Mm. But my whole concern is, why go get the additional depth when you already have the depth at guard?
Because you don't know how good your depth is. That's the thing, is obviously the Ravens know better than we do. How do these guys look, right? There's a reason Ben Powers hasn't played as much as we want him to play. There's a reason we haven't seen a whole lot of Ben Bredesen yet. There's, a lot of these guys are I know Cleveland's going to be more than likely our day one starter. This guy is not coming in to be a starter. I think this guy is coming in to be a piece. Again, he plays right guard most of his time in the NFL. Right. We signed Kevin Zeitler to be the starting right guard. I think this is going to be just more of a rotational guard, a piece to give you depth in case there's an injury. We all know that injuries happen left and right. And again, I really think that this is to just kind of hold some of these current guards' feet to the fire and say it's time to put up or shut up, and you'll be out of the league quick.
All right. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't think we didn't hear any details on the actual contract yet. But
I haven't heard the details on it. I mean, but this guy, he's not just a bench guy. He's played a lot in his career. He was actually the starter on the Broncos Super Bowl 50 team when Peyton Manning was down there.
Yeah.
I think that was like his second year in the league.
I feel like I remember his name. Wasn't he pretty good in college? I forget what college. Ryan, what college did he play for?
Who?
Schofield.
Michigan?
Yeah.
He sucks.
It's your boy. It's your school.
That was only off context clues.
You had something you wanted to bring up?
Nick Sievers was just saying, can he play center? Our center was our biggest issue last year. I do want to bring up this just because of things we've heard this week about the Ravens playing more under center, having Lamar actually take snaps from center. Certainly it could help in the play-action game. That's a reason. But honestly, you can run the play-action from the pistol. I think really they need to have Lamar taking snaps from under center for exactly the scenario we had. If your centers aren't getting the ball the 3 yards, 5 yards back, he needs to have the ability to get under center, and he had literally never done it. He didn't do it in Louisville. He didn't do it in the NFL.
He needs to have the ability.
Learn how to do it.
But yeah, I agree with you. He needs to have the ability to play under center. But here's the thing. Bradley Bozeman, everything that we're hearing about, the team is raving about him. He's happy to be back under center, and he's happy to be playing where he played in college. You also have Castillo Colon, who is the undrafted guy that we still don't know what the Ravens feel about him, but we saw good things out of him in those 2 starts, right? And then you've got Macari, who is we talk about that versatile piece that can play center and can play guard.
The thing with Colon Castillo, the more I think about this, and the more you see them, and you see them go and get guys like Schofield and going and getting James, the more I sit back and I'm sitting there and go, okay, you have to carry Colon Castillo. You have to carry him because there's no way he's clearing waivers off the practice squad. He will be signed by someone.
I agree with that.
They are decent centers are a dime a dozen, and I know it was a small sample size. We talked about somebody's going to be willing to take the chance.
I agree with that. That's why I kind of said I think it's either Castillo or Macari. I don't think the Ravens try to carry both.
I don't think Scott knows what a dime a dozen means. That means they're not valuable if they're a dime a dozen, less than a penny each.
Diamond in the rough, whatever. You know what I mean? They're not a dime a dozen. Yes.
All right. Well, a couple other side
penny a
notes.
dozen.
Couple other side notes with the Ravens before we move on. Former Raven, Tony Jefferson, he's back in the NFL, finally getting another opportunity. He signed a deal with the 49ers. Hasn't played in a couple years. He's another one that's been rehabbing an injury and whatnot. And honestly, when he was on the field here, he was still good, but he wasn't great. So I was kind of surprised to see the 49ers give this guy a shot.
Tony Jefferson was never a guy.
Love Tony though.
You were never relying on him. He was a special teamer, which is why he played so well. He also played a decent amount of special teams. He was a gunner for a little bit.
Tony Jefferson? I don't remember him playing special teams.
I was pretty sure he played special teams for a little while.
I don't remember. I mean, he could have. I don't remember him playing.
Either way, but he was a good communicator, good football IQ, and a guy that guys could turn to. So the fact that he goes and signs somewhere, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, good on him, and he's going to go play for a pretty decent organization that's got a shot yet again.
Yeah.
Year in, year out, they've been playing around. Speaking of other former Ravens, Joe Flacco. Did you see this interview on 105.7?
I did. I didn't see it. I heard it.
Heard it.
You know how that is radio.
They told him that people were mad about Hollywood taking 5, and word for word, Joe's response: "I think it's all a bunch of crap. Numbers are numbers. It's all fair game."
Yes. So let's please move on. Anybody that's still upset that Hollywood Brown is wearing number 5, Joe Flacco himself doesn't give a shit, so you shouldn't. Let's move on. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Bros, Bows, and O's.
We're not doing social media shout out.
I guess we'll just skip right over that now. That's good. Social media shout out. All right, Ryan, who's out there on social media?
Wait, is
Who's been chiming in?
Ryan awake over there? You said
Yeah.
Bros, Bows, and O's. I'm pretty sure if he went to sleep.
Yeah, had to wake right back up. So Restream's over here not letting me comment in the chat room, so we'll see how that goes rest of the day. But we have been pretty active. James Carusi in the studio over here had the first comment. Dick move.
Denied.
I feel like our delay is a little less than everybody else.
That is void.
He's been disqualified. Steph Summers was the winner with the first comment.
Nice.
Oh, beat Chuck by
husband Buffalo Chuck.
Oh, wait. I'm just going to say, technically, per the timing, he did 1932-27. She did 1931-41. Oh, she was right. Okay.
Too many letters, Chuck. That's what it was. She went short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
Too many letters, Chuck.
Steph Hemling, Joe Carlozzo, Steven Severs. He talks about how too many free agents next year. You got to keep our draft picks, and related to the picking up Julio Jones for draft picks.
Agreed.
Sure, we got a lot of people we need to pay. We need some young people to put around them. Nick Short, Mr. YouTube, Jacob Paul, right after his pay-per-view fights in here watching. Drew Nickerson. He said, if people believe that Ertz is washed after a bad injury season, and then you can't believe in Julio, I felt like he was talking directly to me.
I was about to say, he's definitely calling you out on that one. 100%.
I certainly believe Ertz is washed, and I believe in Julio, so I guess he's talking directly at me. Nick Short, who tried to pretend he's not an AB guy and he was a Julio guy, switch him midstream. We put him in check, told him he's not allowed to do that. Dominic Henson, Adik Mahood, and Garnett West.
All right, man. Any good questions or comments or anything that you want to bring up? Or
I mean, I read those two, and that's about all I got here.
All
Right
right.
Steve.
I'm just hitting buttons, Scott. That's how I roll.
Steve says, shout out the BS crew. Love you guys.
I appreciate it, Steve.
Appreciate it, Steve, when you're not calling in during the
Steve, we're gonna
draft
have
show.
Steven Severs, fuck you.
Yeah, it was not
That was
Steve.
a fake Steven Severs.
This is the real Steven Severs. Please stand up. All right, fellas, it's time for some Bros, Bows, and O's. And we actually have some good things, some good vibes going around this team, man, after losing what was 14 games straight.
Y'all got low standards.
Hey, whoa. Ryan, I got some good news for you. We're not in last place, okay?
We're not.
Terrible news.
Not in last place in MLB. Still in last place in the American League
the AL.
by a long shot. But after losing 14 straight, they end up winning 4 of the next 5.
Yeah.
Scored 18 runs on Sunday.
I was there.
Against the Indians. An impressive game all around. Most of the game for the O's since 2015. 21 hits. Most of the game since 2019.
Yeah,
it was all across the board. Everybody was hitting.
And the thing that was great here was they were hitting when it mattered. 11 for 18 with runners in scoring position.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. You got to get, and they weren't just hitting, basic. They were hitting a good amount of doubles.
Chuck, stay tuned for that with that comment because we've got a good discussion about that.
Yes,
so
we do.
Stay tuned with that.
But yeah, no, it was great to see. Jorge looked good in his start. He got run support. What have we been calling
Finally.
for? Run support. He had a 6-run second inning.
Yeah.
It was there for him, and he was down. I think he could have gone a little bit further. They got to him for 3 there in the I believe it was in the 6th. He probably could have gone for. I'm sorry, no, they got crap. Who did they get in the 6th? Hunter Harvey, I think, is who they got in the 6th. But it overall, I think
Harvey looked pretty well.
Harvey looked good. Tyler Wells looked good.
Yeah.
And then we saw Zach Lowther come in. He gave up 4 more there at the end of the game.
That guy, man, he doesn't know if he's pitching in Baltimore, Norfolk, day by day. His daily thing just changes.
Yeah, I don't know how you, as a pitcher, you're able to do that and come in and be effective. I disagree with the whole up and down crap that they're doing with guys like this. Either you trust him and bring him up, let him get used to it, and then see what he can do. But it just screws with a guy, right? When you're going up and down, and that it really just doesn't say. But go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things, obviously, I want to ask you, though. I mean, you go from losing 14 straight and just nothing is going right to all of a sudden you win 4 out of 5. What the fuck changed? What happened?
So a story came out this week by Rock Kabatko talking about this, and he talked about Trey Mancini. When it hit the 10-game mark, Trey Mancini apparently called a team meeting. Him, Galvis, and Matt Harvey all spoke, gave speeches to the team, and kind of apparently from what Trey told Rock, he basically kind of had what I would call Little Big League. You remember that movie?
Oh, that's a great movie.
Little Big League, great movie. Wasn't on our list, by the way.
Not my top 5.
It's not my top 5, but it's still a good baseball movie.
Not my top 5. Rookie of the Year was much better.
But do you remember when they were just losing and they were like, oh, we're never going to win with a kid as manager? He's like, well, you weren't winning under O'Farrell.
Right.
You weren't winning under this guy. Maybe I'm not the problem. And then he gives a speech about, you guys get to play Major League Baseball every day.
Yep.
You get to play on the same field as Mickey Mantle in Yankee Stadium. You get to play at Fenway Park and stand in the same box as Ted Williams. I remember that. I actually watched it the other day after reading the story.
It's a great scene. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Apparently, Mancini gave that type of speech to the team. He basically said, guys, we get to play baseball every day. We get to do what people out in the stands would kill to be able to do and get paid the way that we do to have fun and play baseball. At some point, we got to put it together, and we need to put it on us. We need to turn it around.
When did this speech happen?
That happened around 10.
So it after lost 10.
After they
lost 4 more. It didn't work, is what you're trying to say.
But
takes time.
Hyde came in and doubled down at 14. After the 14th game, they came in and he basically not only did he give a coach-esque speak, but he also reiterated what Mancini kind of said. He focused the team to Mancini and kind of said, here's a guy that came back from everything to play the game that he loves, and here he's loving it. We need to be here to support him. We need to be here to support ourselves. You guys need to step up.
Yeah.
You can't have the dumb mistakes. You have to be patient at the plate. When you make contact, run the damn ball out. Like little stuff like that is apparently some of the things that he talked about. They didn't get into all the details. Just little nits and pieces. That's going to be a clubhouse thing, and it's going to keep. It's going to stay that way.
Of course.
But obviously something changed because the next day they win.
Yeah.
They win. They lose in a close game.
Yep.
And then they come back and go, we lost that one. Fuck that.
Yeah.
18 runs. 18 runs out of this team.
Yeah, man. And it was really it was everybody doing their part, to your point. But you had a couple of guys that have really, really stood out since those speeches. One of which, Ryan Red Hot Mountcastle. This dude, he was just named AL Player of the Week.
That bat is straight fire.
Hitting just under 500 over the week, 458, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, 1.083 slugging percentage, 1.563 OPS. and 26 total bases. What you're starting to see out of Mountcastle is what we talked about like the first month of the season. All those warning track shots that he was hitting, where he was hitting the cover off the ball, but the ball just didn't seem to carry.
Humidity.
The humidity is starting to pick up down there at Canyon Yards, and the ball is flying. I mean, every ball that he hits, whether it's low or out of the stadium, doesn't matter. He's hitting it hard,
and he's making solid contact. He's had some doubles. He's had the home runs that you talked about. It's just he's making solid contact with the ball. Even the singles, they're hard hit singles, right? And it's great to see. It's great to see him out there doing well. He's been doing well defensively as well. Seen some good rundown balls. But one guy that's been awesome defensively and offensively.
Give it to me. Give it to me. I want to hear it.
I got to give it to Freddie.
I want to hear it.
Seti Mull.
There it is.
Seti Mull has been straight fire.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I mean, I love Mountcastle. But how was Seti Mull not player of the week the way he's been playing?
His big game actually fell on Sunday, which is when the new week starts.
Well, his big game actually came to fruition on Saturday. That was his 5-for-5 game on Saturday.
Oh, right.
He was 4 for 5 on Sunday. Or I'm sorry, 3 for 4 with 2 walks
on Sunday. You're right.
But straight fire. Shout out to your boy Seti Mull too, because after he made an awesome catch at the top of the 6th to end the inning, tossing the ball up, yours truly caught it for Wyatt because he was throwing it our way.
That's awesome. Lots of love about Cedric Mullins, man. This dude, to your point, it's not just been with the bat. He's been doing it on the field, on the bases, with the glove. Everything. 9 hits.
Total package.
9 hits in 9 straight at bats. It's most for an Oriole since Melvin Mora back in 2000. Melvin Mora, another one of my favorite Orioles of all time.
One short of the record.
Melvin Mora. Yep, one short of the record, which was Ken Singleton. I think back in the 60s or early 70s, a long time ago.
70s.
Dustin Pedroia, just to show you how close he was to major league history, Dustin Pedroia and Bernie Williams hold the MLB record tied for 11. So he was that close.
Up there with some big names.
Up there with some really big names. He actually reached base in 11 straight at bats because they started walking him after at that point. But he had 3 home runs, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. Now he's got 9 on the year. This is our little center fielder. The little center fielder that could. He's got 9 home runs.
And you were talking about it. After Sunday's games, his numbers are just ridiculous.
Go for it.
His numbers are ridiculous. He leads the AL in hits with 73. He's 3rd in average at 322, 8th in OPS at 923.
Keep it
he's
coming.
2nd in WAR at 2.7.
Love
and
it.
he's 9 stolen bases, which is 9th in the MLB. Pretty damn impressive front there. From one guy. And we just talked about another guy that was player of the week.
Right.
You have all of these things coming together. Like you talked about, his bat, his glove. Saw some great plays over this past week with him diving for some balls, saving some extra base hits, and saving some extra runs getting across for the other teams. Great to see. Fred was... You guys should have been in our text group this week. Fred was
You're
damn
seeing
proud...
a little bit of the insider baseball here.
Fred was a damn proud papa.
I was.
Papa
Mullins here.
Papa Mullins. Jesus. Geez.
The only thing, though, Papa Mullins. Hashtag Papa Mullins. The only thing that kind of made me hold my breath a little bit over the weekend, John Means, the only starting pitcher worth a damn on our starting rotation right now, had to leave the game after the first inning on Saturday, complaining of some shoulder fatigue.
He threw a breaking ball, and then right afterwards, you see him like rotating his arm.
Yeah.
They were saying, I think, what did they say? Shoulder soreness.
Yeah, it's however you want to word it. Is it fatigue? Is it soreness? I mean, this is an ongoing problem with John Means. He's had this a couple times in his career.
Dead arm.
Fortunately enough, the MRI revealed no structural damage, so there's nothing there. This could be just something that he might miss a few starts. He might not pitch the rest of this month and come back. He had very similar issues in 19. Actually missed opening day last year, if you remember right, to the same problem.
Yeah, it was the shoulder.
It was right after spring training.
The dead arm, and then the whole thing combined.
Right. But so far, though, 4-2 on the year, 2.28 ERA, second best in the AL now. So he's given up that crown of being the top in the AL.
Yeah. I do worry with him that it's, while there's no structural damage yet, I worry that there's a rotator cuff problem building.
Yeah.
Just the way that he.
But I believe this is his left shoulder.
He's a left-handed pitcher.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Bro.
Yep. Fuck that one up.
This is making best of Birdland.
You said that. I went, where the fuck is he going with this?
Yeah, I had to think about it for a second. You're right. Left-handed pitcher.
Anyway.
But my point in bringing this up, right, is we talk about Mullins, we talk about John Means, right? We also talk about that we have for the last 2 months how great Trey Mancini has been playing, right?
Yeah.
Still hitting right around like the 280 mark. He leads,
Slam dunk for comeback player of the year.
right?
Slam dunk.
Leads the team in home runs. I think he's got 11 at this point. Still obviously leads the team in RBIs, but I think he's fallen to like 5th or 6th in RBIs right now. At 44, I believe he's at. But you got 3 guys, right? And this is to Chuck's point, right? Cedric Mullins is a surefire all-star. So my question to you is, with these 3 guys, Cedric Mullins hitting the cover off the ball, you just rattled off all the stats and where he's at in the league. We talk about John Means potentially being in the conversation for Cy Young with the numbers that he's putting up, right? I don't know if the wins are going to get him there, pitching for a last-place team, that kind of thing, but you just look at the numbers.
We don't know what this injury is going to do.
He's right, exactly, but he's in contention for it. Trey Mancini, the stats are one thing, but then the story's another, right?
Yeah.
So you got 3 guys that all have a legit case for an all-star spot. My question is, typically, when you see a team like this, which the Orioles are the 2nd worst team in Major League Baseball right now, only behind Arizona, so they're the worst team in the American League. Typically, a worse team like that, you're lucky if you get 1 guy in the all-star game, right? And we've had some seasons in the past as Oriole fans where we've been better than this.
And had none.
And had none, or we had a guy that was like kind of questionable. It was like a pity move to get an Oriole in there. But in this situation, you're the worst team in the American League, and you have 3 guys that actually have a legit shot. What do you think happens with the All-Star game? If all things continue in the path that they're on right now, and we're sitting there and it's coming to selection time, does an Oriole make it? And if it does, how many and who?
So I do think an Oriole makes it. I think at minimum it's 2. I think Trey Mancini is a slam dunk. I think
because of the story?
I think
Mainly because of the story?
No, I think his numbers also speak for themselves for this year. Okay. You know, to come back and put up those numbers, it's both, right? And I think if he's not voted in by the fans, he is sure as hell voted in by the players. The players, everywhere you go, you've heard stories of them being asked, and they all say it's impressive what he's done and what he's come back from, and to put up the numbers that he's doing, right? So I think he's a slam dunk. Cedric Mullins, I think, has deservedly, as long as he maintains and doesn't fall off the rest of this month, he has deservedly put himself in running, maybe not a starting position in the outfield, but in the running for one of those outfield spots.
And Adit brings up a good point. Says Cedric's case for the All-Star spot largely depends on Trout's injury. He hasn't played in a while. Here's the thing that I think we got to kind of remember when it comes to All-Star games, Pro Bowls, All-Star games, right? Most of this shit is popularity contest.
Yeah.
And right now it's hard for us to get 5,000 fans in the stands that are even giving a damn about this team or paying attention to this team. And all it comes down to is every person has the chance to vote for your All-Stars 5 times a day, right? Well, you've got teams out there that have 20, 30,000 people on a regular watching their teams play.
Right.
I don't know how much fan support that the Orioles are going to get there. I think all 3 of these guys have legit cases to be All-Stars, and I think it would be criminal. I think it would be criminal if Cedric Mullins doesn't make it. I understand Mike Trout is the best player in baseball, but he has been injured. He hasn't put up the numbers because he's been hurt, right?
Even when he was there, the numbers weren't.
He's still doing very well.
They were good, but they weren't normal Mike Trout numbers. They were still good,
right? But Cedric Mullins has been out there from the beginning until now, right? He's putting up great numbers. Again, this is all expecting that these numbers continue to stay on the same path. If Cedric Mullins falls off the map and he's hitting below 300, then he becomes kind of average.
The benefit here is the fact that those 3 names all year have been getting national coverage. All year. Means with the no-hitter.
I mean, I don't think we're national, but I mean, we're pretty close.
But national, they've been
joking.
National coverage has been, ESPN and those guys are giving them the coverage, right? They were there with the Means thing. That was a big deal, right? I guess all the guys that have no hitters this year going to wind up in the All-Star game at this point,
right? The whole staff would be loaded with no hitters.
Trey at the beginning of the year. Now that he's heating up again, he at first it was all about the comeback. Now it's he came back. He started to struggle and he's fought through it, and now he's putting up immaculate numbers. and Cedric Mullins is getting national attention for the way that he's just been hitting. I mean, this guy leads the league in hits.
Right.
How can you not look at that and say
That's
that
what I'm
guy's not
saying.
all-star material?
This isn't us being homers and being like, oh yeah, there should be 3 Orioles. This is why I wanted to bring this up, because it's a season. It's a season of weirdness. I mean, this team, for them to be as bad as they are, but have 3 players playing at an elite level that they are playing at, is so rare.
I don't know that this is going to happen, but let's just trending. Let's assume it does. I don't know that I'd have to go research it because I don't know the answer. But I would highly doubt, or it'd be very minimal, that there's ever been a player to lead the league in hits at the All-Star break and not be an All-Star.
That'd be a good stat to look up. I have no idea.
I have no idea.
Can't
just
pull
saying,
that one out.
I'm saying like that would be something. If that happens, it's a break in history that it would have fans really. It would have Orioles fans especially clamoring, going, "Are you serious right now?"
Yeah.
Or this is why it's. I've been saying. The All-Star game and how it's selected needs to be rethought. If you are the leader in any of the top of the main categories, you're an automatic All-Star as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with you.
And if you lead in more than 2 or
Right.
1 or 2, you're an automatic starter.
I agree.
Why not? Why are we not taking that mentality? Why is it most votes is the goddamn starter? It's ridiculous.
It's the way All-Star games work. It's absurd. I agree with you.
It's time to move on from that.
While we're talking All-Stars, before we move on to the minors, because we got a couple quick notes that we want to go over in the minors. Can we talk Kevin Gausman for a second? Speaking of All-Stars, have you seen Have you seen the line of what he's done this year so far?
You're going to tell us.
All right. 12 games he started. This is Kevin Gausman, the same Kevin Gausman that was here.
And the one in Atlanta that did shit in Atlanta.
Yeah, did shit in Atlanta, did shit in Cincinnati. 12 games started. He's 7-0. 1.27 ERA, a .76 whip, 93 Ks and 77 innings pitched.
Jesus Christ.
The same Kevin Gausman, right? So, you know, I wanted to drop, you know, obviously, this just goes back to the Orioles pitching development and da-da-da-da-da. That would have made sense if we would have seen this kind of turn immediately when he went to Atlanta or immediately when he went to Cincinnati. Atlanta didn't think much of him because they gave up on him. Cincinnati didn't think much of him because they gave up on him. But he's put it together in San Francisco right now. And another stat that I saw that I think was the most telling when I started really looking into this, right? One of the things that Kevin Gausman that killed him while he was here in Baltimore was the long ball. Right. So when I looked at the meat of his time with the Orioles, where he got the majority of his starts, he gave up 28, 29, 26, and 21 home runs a year, which averages out to 29 starts per year. Right. So in those 4 years, he averaged 29 starts and he gave up 28, 29, 26, and 21 home runs. He's got 12 starts this year, and he's given up 5. 5. Right? So if you double the starts, which gets him close, double the home runs, he's at 10. He's at a third of the home runs that he's given up. Now, granted, I understand it's the National League, but McCovey Cove, San Francisco, is a kind of a small ballpark.
Especially for left-handers, just ask Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds showed that you can hit a hell of a lot of home runs in San Francisco.
Look, I mean, it's damn impressive. Maybe he is a California surfer dude at heart.
Yeah,
maybe that's what it is, and he's loving the weather. He's comfortable out there. Some guys, that change of scenery, that's all it takes. We've seen it before.
Right.
A little bit different with Arrieta, but Arrieta, even still, I guess he loved the Chicago city life. He was filling up on them deep dishes and them Chicago dogs.
The Arrieta transformation was literally right away, and you're like, yep, pitching development. Yep, it was the cutter. Yep, it was that. Immediately, Kevin Gausman, this is now, 3 years removed almost?
Kevin Gausman started okay in
He also
Atlanta.
started okay here a couple times, too, and then he became Kevin Gausman. He is 7-0 with a 1.27 ERA.
It's damn impressive. No matter how you spin this, it's impressive altogether. And I hope that some of these guys that we have down on the farm can kind of get us there. And everything that we're seeing, God, is it happening, guys? Down on the farm, let's talk Adley fucking Rutschman right now.
Yeah, unreal. I think it's time for this dude to take the next step and come up to AAA at this point.
Does he really need to go to AAA?
I do. I think, yeah. Put him up there against even better pitching, better talent, and see what happens.
So I have a question, though. Is it better pitching when that's...
I think it is.
Hang on. Is it better pitching when that's where you go to have a guy develop after he's been in the majors?
That's not what everybody uses AAA for. I mean, yes, that's ultimately what happens is people are shuttled between the major leagues and AAA, but your top talent, for the most part, still comes through 3 levels of progression. There are the rare cases that come up from AA, which we've talked about. Yeah. There have been some players. Manny Machado was one of them, right? It doesn't happen very often, but I think at this point, Adley's proven that he can do everything, that AA can't contain him. He's hitting 293. He's got 8 home runs, 22 RBIs, and 26 runs, tearing the cover off the ball down there.
Did Wieters and Scope make that jump? I believe Wieters and Scope also made the jump from AA to the majors.
Maybe, but we all know Adley's not coming up this year. Adley is not coming up this year, so why not?
No matter how much we whine for
no matter how much we want it, right, he's not. So why not move him up to AAA, put him up against a little bit better talent, and give him some exposure to potential major league pitchers that are coming down and going up and going down. Give him that exposure, get him some work there. There's obviously some pitchers there that are on the horizon for the Orioles too. Yeah. Get him some familiarity with them too. Speaking of that, Kyle Bradish, another guy, I know that's Drew's boy, my boy, since moving up to AAA. He's made 3 starts, 13.2, 2/3 of an inning, 1-0, 2.03 ERA, 7 hits, 5 walks, 26 Ks.
It's impressive.
A .878 whip.
2 strikeouts an inning.
Yeah. I mean, this guy didn't give up a single run in AA this year.
Yeah.
So 2.03 is a little bit of an uptick. But if this guy's only giving up 2.03 ERA at the AAA level, he's proven that he can do it.
And an ERA is based generally off of 9 innings, right? So that means he gave up 2 runs throughout 3 games.
Yep.
That's impressive, guys. That's extremely impressive. For those of you that don't understand, and are, we need stuff now, and I get really tired. This is where I have to get off social media, because I get really annoyed with the people on social media that are clamoring that the Orioles are doing it. It's horrible on Facebook. It's not as bad on Twitter.
Facebook's the worst.
But Facebook's definitely the worst for it, because people are claiming, fire Brandon Hyde, this and that, the 14-game. Yeah. What the hell is he going to do? First off. Second off, look at what's happening down in the minors. If you're ignoring that, you have no understanding of a rebuild. You don't understand what it is. Everybody at the majors, I won't say everybody. I'll say half of what's at the majors will not be there in 2 years.
It's probably true.
Because it's all in Bowie and Norfolk right now. And some of it actually may be in Aberdeen right now, too.
Yeah.
So it's this thing that you have to understand. The way that this Bowie roster looks right now,
it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And the way that these guys are playing, we went from being one of the worst minor league systems in all of baseball to one of the best. And this week, Grayson Rodriguez was named the top pitching prospect in all of baseball. Number 11 prospect in baseball overall.
Yeah.
This is over some top tier names.
Yeah. That's why I'm so excited, man, for this future. And again, if you're on board with this team and you're on board with this rebuild process, the future is super bright.
I want to say we have like 6 guys in the top 100 now.
We do. And I think even Gunnar Henderson, who had just cracked the top 100, he's at like 89 now. Yeah,
and DL Hall's at 44 now.
Right. So when you start looking at the future, right, you think about the rotation. We've talked about this a little bit. But here's some of your options. You're going to have John Means if he can come, stay healthy and continue to pitch the way he is. Grayson Rodriguez, like you said, named the number 1 pitching prospect in baseball and is killing it every level that he's gone to so far. Yeah. DL Hall, who's going to be a dominant left-handed pitcher and another one that is killing it at every level. Kyle Bradish, who we just talked about, didn't give up a single run at AA this year. 2.03 ERA at AAA right now. That's your potential 4th starter. And then 5th, you've got the guy like Ballman, Brenovich, Kramer, Aiken, Vespi. You got a laundry list of guys that could fill that role.
And those that don't start will wind up in the bullpen.
Exactly. I mean, they've got a ton of arms down there, and it's just fun to watch. I mean, we, for years, all we heard about were these top pitching prospects that we were drafting. And then once they got into the system, they just kind of fell to the wayside. We just never really heard of them dominating at this kind of level. This is a consistent thing through all four levels of the minor league system. You're seeing dominant pitching, and a lot of dominant pitching coming from players that I've never even heard of until recently.
There were some names that we knew about. We knew about the DL Hall. We knew about the Grayson Rodriguez.
Yeah, but I'm saying even below those guys, a lot of guys.
There's guys at Aberdeen right now that you're going to know their names here in the coming weeks because they're pitching well. And it's just great to see. And it, you talk about what this rotation could be. Can you think of any comparisons of what you could?
Yeah, I definitely can. One that comes to mind was one that was super dominant in the 90s. Glavine, Maddox, Smoltz.
The Braves, yeah.
And I think Avery was their fourth starter, right? I'm not saying that these guys are going to live up to that kind of hype, but that's like what I'm dreaming of. Like that's the dream pictures, having those starting pitchers, those dominant starting pitchers that can get you through 7-8 innings where you don't really have to rely on your bullpen for much, close the game down, have that dominant setup and closing guy.
And those guys, it's the thing about those guys too, and the thing about some of these guys is some of these guys that we're looking at now are doing this with at times low run support.
Yeah.
So it's even more impressive that they're keeping this game competitive even when their team isn't in it. Right. They're the ones keeping their team in it single-handedly. Imagine what happens as you also start to develop some of these bats. Some of the bats that are already here, that are going to be here when these guys come up and be even in a more prime state when these guys come up. And then some of the bats that are coming up. Yeah. It's one of those things that you look at and you kind of go, all right, there are some pieces here. And I'll be straightforward. I think we're moving along a little bit based right now, in the here and now. I would venture to say we are moving faster than I thought we would be at the beginning of the year.
I 100% agree with you. I think we are, especially from a pitching development standpoint. Yeah. The only negative you talk about the bats that came of this week, Matt Blood on 105.7 The Fan yesterday talking about Heston Kjerstad, who was our first-round pick last year, was number 2 overall pick, basically said not to have any expectations for him this season. They're going to take things really slow because he's still working back from his diagnosis last season. He's got that heart condition. So don't expect anything from him. That's now going to be 2 full seasons that he's removed from college baseball. So even when he does come back, if he can come back at a full capacity, it's going to take him time to kind of get back into the swing of things and develop.
I have a question that came out of this for me, right? Because they're saying that this is something that he had prior to the draft. It just fully got, I don't want to say fully diagnosed, right? But there were some indicators beforehand while he was in high school, some things that happened, but nothing that raised the flag for concern for them. Orioles are known to have one of the strictest medicals in all of baseball.
Yeah.
The fact that this comes out afterwards, do you think it was a loosening of the medical standards for the Orioles, or do you think this just truly was missed by everybody?
I think it was partly that it was missed or maybe not completely understood how severe it was, one. And the other part of it was Kjerstad was never supposed to be the number 2 overall pick. Kjerstad was only the number 2 overall pick so they could have more bonus signing money for later picks to be able to get some of these other guys to sign. That's why they ended up going
does this wind up? I mean, it
could end up,
winds up hurting you maybe, at least right now.
But there's bigger things with this guy's life than baseball.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? From an organizational standpoint, from a business standpoint.
They're doing the right thing and taking care of him.
Yeah, but does it look bad? Yeah, it looks bad because this is something that hopefully your medical staff would have either looked into a little bit further or maybe would have, maybe hindsight, like not taking the risk on. But
yeah.
I don't know. It's something that I don't have that kind of information to know how much.
No, I don't think we do. It's just I just think it was one of those things that's like, okay, this has become such a big issue, and the more we're hearing about it, the more we learn about it, the more it was there before. It just maybe wasn't fully diagnosed or whatever it was. And for being the fact that we've always known as being the strictest, it's just kind of like had me scratching my head a little bit. Like, has everything changed in that front office? Did we overlook something here that maybe we shouldn't have?
It's possible. Very possible. All right, Scott, it's time for this week's Liquor Stop Brew of the Week. And what did James and the crew hook us up with?
Jerry.
Jerry.
He's
James,
bad with names today.
Making sure you're awake over there.
Names, arms, whichever you want to do. If you're John Means, you're apparently
Left-handed, right-handed. Whatever.
This is from Old Ox Brewery, and we had a few Old Ox ones. This is their hop camo, generously hopped IPA.
There it is, Ryan.
6.8.
You are no fan of white.
He got it now. It says, our Hop Your Place collection is an exploration into the magical and infinitely expandable world of hops. IPA lovers rejoice. We're here to help you find your hoppy place. It definitely is hoppy.
Corny.
Yeah. It's definitely very hoppy. If you're a fan of IPAs, you will like this. It is very strong in that sense.
It's a strong beer in general. 6.8 APV. I mean, that's a strong beer.
The taste is stronger.
Yeah, no, I agree.
The taste definitely has a strong floral note to it. But make sure you guys go out to Liquor Stop, 1510 Conowingo Road in Bel Air. Make sure you tell them Birdland BS sent you. Tell Jerry and the crew.
Yep.
Jerry,
and the crew.
James, whoever's there that day.
With the J.
It's Jerry and the crew that Birdland BS sent you. Get your 10% off. Drew says, Terps time. It's pee break time.
It
for him.
is. Some more exciting things. You know, we were excited about the Orioles. Now we get a chance to get excited about the Terps. This was a big week for the Terps, Ryan. The Terps get to finally show off this facility that we've seen so many renderings of, so many pictures of, finally came to light.
Yeah, I mean, it's real. All of a sudden, we've been showing 17-year-olds pictures and drawings and
3D renderings.
And, 3D renderings.
This is what it's going to look like, I promise.
Yeah, we're using Buffalo Chuck's 3D printer to make everything work.
Pretty sure Bob Ross painted the first.
And then all you got to do is put Scott Van Pelt's voice over it, and it makes it real.
Right.
Well, that and $196 million, what was that the number or something?
Yeah, it's just under $200 million. No wonder this university is broke.
Yeah, I mean, this place is amazing. I'm going to throw it back up front here. We're going to let this video roll behind. This is the Mike Loxley telling you ain't nothing average about this building, and he is right.
I mean, they've got an outdoor facility there, a 20-some thousand or 40-some thousand square foot workout room there.
Little hints in here too, man. They got these the helmets and jerseys on the wall, and there's one jersey in there that we have not seen yet. There's the throwback white scripts. So I assume we'll be seeing that homecoming this year.
Yeah,
if you're already got that on the wall. They got a throne for the guys the people to come in on and take their photos. You know, college football is all about recruiting. It's about that one day experience, that one weekend experience, to get these guys to come and play for you. And a building like this changes everything.
Yeah, we talked about this in our group chat as well. Like, there's these kids, you got to remember, like you said, they're 17, 18 years old, right? These guys, this type of thing makes a big impact. It's a visual, it's especially when it's groundbreaking like this, right? When you're talking about one of the best, if not the best facilities in the country here at University of Maryland, that's a huge recruiting tool for them. Huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best in the country. That's what we're saying. That's what everyone that is walking through that building is saying. We had players that have already been touring SEC campuses and saying this is the best they've been through. I mean, you look at the LSU locker rooms. There are pieces at other schools that are
For those
better.
of you that don't know, that's James over there.
James, the Penn State fan.
James
over here.
I'm not going there. LSU has a great one. Clemson just got a great one.
LSU's got drop ceiling.
And
Yeah. So
and Oregon has a pretty nice one too.
Oregon's pretty sweet, but like Fred was said. So all of a sudden, Maryland gets to be football snobs.
Right.
Like, we've been looking up for years. I've been just like, oh my God, look at all this fancy stuff. And Fred, after watching our building, saw a kid on an LSU tour and goes, oh, drop ceilings, that's cute. Like, we get to be the football snobs now, people. We've been waiting
stick our
for
nose
this.
up in the air a little bit. All right, so we talked about the facility, right? So there's the indoor practice facility. There's an outdoor practice facility. There's the huge weight room. There's the huge cafeteria area, which has movie theaters and, like you said, the throne for recruiting. What else am I missing? All the new coaches' offices and whatnot. Which
the giant lounge, which has its own barber shop, and they're having barbers come in.
Pool table, right? The new locker room is
giant ass
unreal.
gaming chairs.
The training
They're
facility.
not gaming chairs. These
Well,
are
I
like
know.
full-on
Lazy
reclining
boys.
chairs
Yeah.
with ottomans
But
that pull out.
the way that they're set up, they look like gaming
Oh,
chairs.
yeah. they're
Wireless
definitely gonna
cell
have
phone
whatever they want
charging.
hooked up there.
They've got a cooling system to cool down the jerseys and their gear and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Just the locker itself has a seat which can recline to pull out. There is storage in the seat. There pulls out, and there is a wireless phone charger.
Yeah.
There's a cooled cup holder. Like, this is just the locker.
Right.
And there's 200 of them because it's football.
Yeah.
And then you look at the training room. I mean, there's more training tables than I'm pretty sure we have trainers at this point. But then look into the future.
why do I
The
think
pools that they had, the indoor.
they got the ice bath pools. They got the hot tubs. They got the lap pools.
I don't think every player gets that thing because I've seen some locker rooms from I forget what college, but the starters and the scholarships they get these nice fucking rooms and like the practice squad.
Ready? Let's flex on them. Those are the bullshit schools. Because
Right.
I saw the Terps have lockers for players that aren't even there yet.
Yes, they got
We got
names.
freshmen that haven't even
I
stepped
don't-
on
I don't
campus in
think
those
all-
locker
I
plaques.
They don't even have a picture for them yet because they haven't been on
They just got
campus.
their name
I
with
know
the picture
for,
missing.
I know for a fact not all 200 are getting those chairs, dude.
Now there's 194 lockers or
if you
something
saw
like
the
that.
pictures and you
193
look at
lockers.
it literally.
I'm not making that
literally
number
looks
up.
like a line of these chairs,
Yeah.
and then the line in
It's
the
a
middle.
star.
And every
Yeah.
every corner is the same thing. It's you have every corner has a chair.
They're not all of them. You
It's
know how-
193.
You know how many you're gonna? How long the fucking room is, and you're trying to talk to a player. They're not getting that.
it's
dude.
broke
This
up into
room
sections.
is
It's
ginormous, and it is. It's broken up in a section where a lot of the sections kind of commingle and face
So
each
you got
other.
the special teams, you got the
Right.
defense, you got the offense, and then if coach needs to talk to everybody, standing in the center of this star that's got these pointed arrows
Right.
that everybody
Well,
can
not
see.
to mention that's another thing, right? So they each have their own
room.
position
room.
group meeting rooms as well.
And then you
on
got the
top
giant
of-
theater room.
But like when
Yep.
you go into a movie theater, there's probably about like 200, 300 chairs. There's no way they're having that recliner for everybody.
193 of them.
So there is, and if you watch the video, put the video back up because you watch
I'm
it.
saying
this
that not
is-
all of them are
this
getting a seat like that.
They are.
Yeah.
This is my first experience with a bitter Penn State fan, and I love it.
I will bet $100 not all of them get that seat.
Money.
$100 taken. 100%.
All right, let me clarify. He did say 193. So if there's 195 men on the roster, does James win?
No. I don't know what the number is. I think it's 193. Something
By
like
doing
that.
the countdown, there are not 195 kids on this team because I'm missing
No,
numbers.
but, all right, so what you just saw, that room that they were just in, if that is a theater room that easily
Yeah,
seats
theater
250.
So
right.
my-
But then all of the other stuff, if you watch it again, you're gonna see the long ass
I'm gonna
hallway.
have to ask for a tour of this place.
Now,
dude.
I only
25
know the
grand.
number. I only know the number because I read everything that went into it because there was an article written about how much money went into it. It was $196 million, I think, and they broke down everything. And the lockers were like 193 to 195, something in that neighborhood. But yeah. My point in bringing this up and my point in asking you and naming everything that went into this thing is if you had to name one thing, like what was your favorite thing?
My favorite thing?
Yeah. What's your favorite piece?
I gotta go because everything's awesome. I gotta go the most ridiculous. And the most ridiculous thing is James will like this, a giant brick pizza oven that is mosaic tiled to be a Maryland football helmet.
Yeah.
The thing could feed the football team, and it's just sitting there. And it must have been like, oh, we got another 80 grand. What should we buy? I bet a pizza oven would be fucking cool. Because it's like, how do we have this giant ass pizza oven?
that trumped the donut wall?
The donut wall. There was a donut wall.
You didn't see that?
I didn't see a donut
Yes.
wall.
They posted
It's
that picture.
it's a Maryland flag with pegs hanging off of it and donuts on it the whole way across. It's not COVID friendly, but whatever. It looked cool.
It'll be post-COVID friendly.
Oh man, I don't know. Like this is just. It's awesome, right? It's something that we've been anticipating for a long time. We're getting excited about the video board that's still part of it, right? That hasn't even been revealed yet. But this is going to be a huge recruiting tool. as we all expect it to be.
Absolutely. And by the way, the people that are catching this, man, jumping in his undies in the pool over here. This is
Baby Gronk.
is Baby Gronk, CJ Dupree. And if that's not the most Gronk thing you've ever seen in your life, that on the very first tour of this facility, he strips down to his underoos and jumps into the pool. He is named appropriately, bro. This is Baby Gronk. I hope he lives up to this the rest of the time.
I love the little but big touches, the things that you don't think about. I mean, the pictures of that weight room are fucking impressive.
Yeah. And it's got some kind of video tracking system that tracks speed and how many reps you do and all
it's
this
almost
information.
Like that tonal system that we all see that's mounted to the wall, that you get the ads on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. That's what it looks like, but it's at a much higher level. They went all out on this, and they
did not waste $1 on this. Maybe the donuts.
Well, they wasted a lot of dollars. So they did not spare $1.
So let's put it this way. I'm going to ask you guys a straight question.
Didn't cut corners, I can tell you that.
No.
Players day to day, what's the immediate impact for them?
I mean, this is huge. This gives them top of the line training equipment, to your point, right? All of the top of the line, as far as like their rehab and, potential like getting people back on the field faster. Obviously, that was a big thing with the Jordan McNair situation, all that stuff. And now having these type of facilities, it's just going to bode extremely well for the current players as well as incoming.
All the recruiting. Yeah. So then what to you guys, when you look at this, obviously this is an investment by Maryland.
So currently, this would have been so amazing to have last year, because this is the kind of place that they isolate from the rest of campus. Like, they don't have to be involved in any of these things. Like, if we have a, watered down COVID world again this fall, it will be so easy to have all your players go to class here, all your players eat here. They used to we're sharing all the facilities with all the teams, with all their classes being done in those same places. They were meeting in the same places. This is a football world. I think that immediately, like Fred said, the training facilities were the number one thing for me. Weight rooms are great, but you can get huge picking up cinder blocks. You can get huge,
Right.
Because there's lots of different ways. But the training facilities with, I don't even know what some of that electronic equipment was. You got the huge ice bowls, the huge hot tubs, the huge all these things that you used to have to do outside if you were going to do it. And
every player is going to have access to it.
Yeah,
now.
You have to make a decision. Are we going to put out money to this outside agency to do this for this player? What's the cost reward? Now it's going to be like, my ankle's a little sore. Go see the trainers. Yep. We have an $80 billion facility for you to go take
stick
care
your
of.
foot against the jet in the hot tub.
We're just there's going to be no question that everyone is immediately going to get this treatment. I think it's going to be huge. And this is an absolute investment in the future.
So long term for you guys, I'm going to be the Debbie Downer here. Is this Lox's world to lose? Or was this made to bring somebody else with the intent of bringing somebody else of a quote? And I'm not saying that he is, but I'm saying there are some big names out there. Well, I'm sure if they came here, you guys wouldn't mind.
As you said, you don't like the social media. You want to get off the social media things. There were plenty of people out there. Great, now win a game.
Right.
So there was plenty of negative. There's also why doesn't women's basketball have this? Slow your roll, people. Everything. Just be happy for the people, and let's see what we can grow and see what we can do. Because if this was made so that Loxley can take this to the next level, so that we can get fairly immediately into that Michigan State.
So you think he's the one taking us to the next level?
I truly believe that Loxley,
appreciate it, David,
quickly will get us into that Michigan State, Michigan, Penn State level. Ohio State is still a prayer and a dream away. It is. They have everything there is to have. They've already have all these things. We're not like, oh, look how great we are, better than Ohio State. We're not.
We're still catching up, and this is a big step in that way.
A huge step in the right direction. For those morons out there that are complete doubters of Loxley, if Loxley fails with his shiny tools that anyone in the world would want to have, this is the kind of shining star that could bring you your next name. I don't think we're gonna have to go there.
I don't know.
I think that Loxley is doing everything right. I think that we have seen progress every year, even without this, just with the hopes and dreams and drawings. And with this tool and the recruiting visits that we've seen rolling through here that are not anything we
How
can
many
remember.
of those? How many of those recruiting visits got early access to this?
Well, it was basically the same day.
Yeah,
so
it was all planned that way.
So the very first day the dead period ended, the morning was the players were exposed to the building.
Current players.
The current players. The afternoon was the visit, and the evening was the directors level donors. Like
Right.
this was all, this was like just like done.
Yeah.
You know, rip off the Band-Aid and get through.
All right.
So
Now, I agree with Ryan. I think I've always been a believer in Loxley, and put this facility aside, I believe that he's more than done and more than delivered to my expectations this far. You can't just look at wins and losses this far, because you have to give a coach enough time to turn over the roster, right, and get his guys in there, get his coaches in there. He's done that now. He's reached that point where now he's legit turned over the roster. He's got his guys in there. Now it just so happens that lines up with getting this amazing facility. There are no excuses for Mike Loxley. I will say that. He can't say that, I don't have my guys here. I don't have this. I don't have that.
That's kind of where I was going with it.
We need to see continued improvement, and there needs to be a big step this year. I think if the Terps aren't bowling this year in some form or fashion, I think, in my opinion, that's a disappointment on this season. And then it'll still be, I think, another year or 2 years before they start potentially competing for that division title, where they're actually in contention for, the Big Ten East.
So do you have that same timeline on expectation? Right? Is that where how? So let me ask.
That's been my expectation since he took over. Again, regardless of the facility, I just think the facility adds to the expediting.
I guess looking at it from a average to less than average, you guys are way above the average fan from Maryland, for sure. Especially
one is a little heavier.
Especially Ryan.
One is a little heavier,
but. For the average fan, or even the below average fan, you look at it, and there were definitely we talked about on the show first year and even last year some questionable coaching decisions made by Loxley throughout the year. At times,
clock management was one of the things we whined about.
Yep.
Clock management. We also whined about the
definitely areas he needs to improve in.
The quarterback choices when he had other options and chose to continue to go with the choice that clearly was. I understand that, but there's a pattern. There's
you had the problem with it last year. Neither one of us had that problem.
I did. We'll see how it works out this year.
We also said that was for a reason, and it seems to be. So when you
and it very well may be,
when you make a promise to somebody as a transfer, you show you keep it. Like he could then say, like, as bad as Josh Jackson was, I told him he was the starter, and I gave him every opportunity to be that starter. So if I'm going to tell you a promise, I'm going to keep it.
Exactly right. That helps in recruiting later down the road, is because this is what I did for this guy, and this is what I'm going to do for you.
It helps in recruiting, but it hurts the team.
We weren't.
That's a questionable coaching decision. I don't care. It's a questionable coaching decision for anybody to say, "Wow, this guy's willing to keep his word to one guy over the entire team."
There wasn't.
Not saying they were making any wins, but
there wasn't anybody in the fold that was going to make that much of a difference. We all agreed that Josh Jackson was terrible. There was something going on with him mentally.
What chance did you actually give Lance Lejeune in that season?
Where is Lance now?
Because was he really actually even given a chance?
That's my point. Is that nobody else did either. There's all these big scholars. Florida State didn't come knocking on Maryland's door, who was recruiting Lance Lejeune against us originally. They didn't come knocking on the door and saying, "Come back, we got a starting role for you." He ended up in Division Louisiana 2. State.
When you're not given opportunities, that's going to happen wherever you go.
No, I mean, if you believe in a guy, which apparently you believed in him, if Florida State believed in him.
I'm not saying I believed him, but what I am saying is this guy was highly recruited by the SEC. We stole him, and we never actually gave him a chance.
Justin Fields played for 3 teams and then ended up being the starter for Ohio State and winning a national championship and getting drafted. So,
but didn't he also jump? And he jumped from level to level to level.
He went from big, huge Power 5 school to huge Power 5 school without being able to be a starter.
There was a lot of things with Lance Lejeune too that were in question. There was a lot of people that were questioning his ability to pick up the playbook. Okay, how much work and drive and time that he was putting into the playbook, and then obviously his performance in practice, and then his performance when he did get a chance last year on the field was not good. That's why Eric Najarin came in and was doing much better, and we felt much better about it.
Yeah, I just look at it and I think Lox has gotten lucky with the pattern that you've seen,
or smart.
Right? This was in motion before Lox was even a decision, was it not?
I don't know.
Hasn't this been in motion? Hasn't this whole this whole
building?
idea of the building
Oh,
been
yeah,
in motion for years before. So
Basically,
that's what I'm
as soon
saying.
as we move to the Big Ten.
It's luck. It's luck of the draw that this is all coming out in this pattern for him.
But the recruiting classes are not luck, especially before.
No, they're not. But the recruiting classes need to come out and show that his recruiting is making sense. And that's why I asked, what is your all's timetable on him to actually get to that point? So if they aren't bowling next year, what's your timetable?
They need to be bowling this year.
So this
Next season,
this year's freshman class was the first
full locks class.
Full locks class all the way through their recruiting period, basically junior and senior year. Also, he's still handicapped with COVID, but I'm not going to give him that pass because everybody was. If they are not winning 10 games a year, which is what we used to do in the ACC, when these guys are juniors, there's a real problem.
So you have 3 years, 3 seasons. This one and the next 2.
For bowling is earlier than that, but yes, the 9-10 win seasons
competing for the East
that I'm looking for in this team that I want to get back to.
Okay,
we're not going to beat Alabama ever and win every game of the year. It's just not going to happen. But I would love for to win 9 regular season games and have a 10th as the bowl game. Like, that's fine. That's what I had an amazing time as a child watching that.
Right. Yeah, and I think that we have a legit shot just based on the trajectory of things right now of getting there. And I believe in locks is what my point was in this whole discussion, this whole question was. I don't think that there needs to be, or I don't think any of this has anything to do with there being another replacement piece in plan. I think everybody on campus believes in Mike Locksley. I think the fan base for the majority believes in Mike Locksley, and I
just, again, as an average fan, I just think he's still got some things to prove, and hopefully these other things help him. But if they don't, that's why I was curious what your timetable was.
You have to hope that he's the guy, because this is the one guy that if he ends up being the Nick Saban of Maryland and just starts dominating at a level I don't even think is possible, he's the only one that would stay and not go looking for something somewhere else. This is his dream job. So you got to give him every opportunity to get this done at this point. You kept this job from him too long. We're seeing how it works now. I get your point, because on the basketball side, which we'll move to, I've always said, why are you going to move on to another level coach when you don't yet have this pretty shiny diamond of the training facility to say, why don't you come coach, look what we have for you? Because right now we really don't have much
anything
to offer them at all on the basketball side. So I get that in the worst case scenario, this building will still help us, but I hope we never get there. On the basketball side, Mr. Bruce Shingler is now officially on Coach Turgeon's staff. This is the Bino replacement.
The Bino Ranson replacement that we talked about last week. We said that, in order for the Bino Ranson loss to not be a catastrophic loss, we needed to know that there was a replacement plan in place and that there was the right fit, especially with the local recruiting ties. And Bruce Shingler, I think, checks off all those boxes.
Yeah, checks off a huge number of those boxes. Because, like you said,
with speech tonight.
You have the trouble with a mute button.
The local impact of him could not be overstated. And with Bruce Shingler, he's a South Carolina Gamecock assistant now, but his previous jobs were with Morgan right downtown.
Yep.
You got Towson. He was part of a huge turnaround where they were terrible and then went to the NCAA tournament.
Like the 2011 season.
And then he also was on an AAU team in D.C., the D.C. Assault, one of the top AAU programs.
Yep.
So he has connections at all levels around the area. He's familiar with high school coaches throughout the area, so he will be able to help. Also on the younger side, helps with relating to these kids, helps with keeping people engaged and being trust, really. Like, how are you having these 18, 19-year-old guys, like, unless you're like the top tier ever coaches, how they're going to look at this 60-year-old guy and relate to him? Like, it definitely helps when, especially your assistants, are on the younger side, I feel. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was a good signing. Again, Terps, from an athletic standpoint, just didn't have a whole lot of money to spend either, right? So they couldn't attract the big names. But it wasn't about a big name in this role. It was about reconnecting with their local ties, recruiting, and I think that checks off a huge box, and I think it's important. This signing is big.
Yeah, and through Ahmed, we learned that this guy had been wanting this job for a while. He was interested in this, and when it came open, he was very excited, and they were excited to have him interested in it, so it all worked out.
Last Terps note before we sign off to the rundown. The baseball team, we talked about them, right, making the NCAA tournament for the first time in a long time. Unfortunately, it didn't last a whole too long. They did end up getting eliminated in the second round, go 1-2 in the regionals, eliminated by ECU.
Yeah, ECU had a hell of a year. It was a big
Yeah.
team to run against. Again, we had a lot of good players. Hopefully we'll have a bunch drafted this year. But, good showing for the Terps. It's not usual for us to even get in. So, hell of a year.
Hell of a year. All right, fellas, it's time for this week's rundown. I'll start this off because my 2 topics are quick, just tidbits of information, and we'll let you go, Scott. So we talk about DC, right? We were just talking about them, right? So who's the latest member of the DC United ownership group?
I saw this.
Mark Ingram. That's right. Former Ravens running back Mark Ingram is now going to be a minority owner, part of that whole DC United ownership group. Pretty exciting move for him.
By the way, the picture behind you makes it look like he's holding your head. Your head's the size of a soccer ball.
So that's big news for Mark. We're seeing this more and more often where these athletes are investing in other teams and other sports. Obviously it's a conflict of interest if you're
right, if you're
investing in a team in your own sport. But we see this more and more often. I think Kevin Durant done the same thing, and a couple other guys.
Russell Wilson, yeah.
Right.
Mahomes.
Yeah, Pat Mahomes, right, with the Royals. And then my other tidbit of note, Simone Biles becomes the first woman to win 7 U.S. all-around titles. 7. Now has more all-around titles than any other woman in history.
Impressive. And
Very, very impressive.
She's still going to continue to run.
Oh, yeah, still at the top of her game. Can't see why she can't come back and win yet another one next year.
Yeah, no, and there's people that are thinking she's going to kill at the Olympics this year with some of the moves that she's been pulling. So great to hear. The rich just keep getting fucking richer. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Robert Kraft got a gift from one of his celebrity friends, rapper Meek Mill, and people were like, "How the hell?" These two have been friends for a while, apparently, and the two of them are really
Money
good
can
friends.
buy you friendship too.
And the millionaire in Meek Mill gave the billionaire Robert Kraft a brand new Bentley for his 80th birthday.
There was a couple of them helped out.
Yeah, it was Jay-Z was involved in it.
And the president of the 76ers.
Yeah, it's a couple people.
There's a few people, but it was Meek Mill was the one that made the storyline because he was the one that was like promoting it
Meek
and
Mill,
all that.
Robert Kraft are boys.
I don't know if you saw the video, but are you fucking kidding me? Like, come on.
Pretty sure you're going to be able to find that Bentley. It's going to stick out like a sore thumb down at those massage parlors.
Bright blue. Blue Bentley.
Exactly. The massage parlors, the human trafficking related to these massage parlors, the fact that the only reason Meek Mill or Jay-Z could be friends with this old-ass, crippled up white guy is something shady. I don't know why this is okay with people. I don't know why everyone... This brings back the Robert Kraft thing. Everyone's mad at the masseuse at Ohio State for giving people sexual favors, but everybody was mad at Robert Kraft before for sexual favors. Why is this whole world filled with so many double issues here? Just fucking make up your mind. Which side's bad?
Yeah. Depends on who you ask and who you are.
All right. James, what do you got?
Mine's simple. I'm just putting out there that the Nuggets center Nikolai Djokovic, a.k.a. the Joker, is set to win the NBA MVP. First center in 21 years to win this, and he averaged 26 points, 10 rebounds, and about nine assists a game. And I'm happy for him. He deserves it compared to everybody wants that shiny car that shoots like 3-pointers from like half court. But he's doing the thing, so
I feel like that was a
for
dig
him.
at Stephen Curry.
Steph Curry or Luka Doncic,
Yeah.
quick one.
I saw a meme that was said Porzingis and Jokic are like Shaq and Kobe, except for that Jokic is both of them.
Ryan,
what's up?
All right, I just want to talk about the Floyd Logan Paul winner.
Of the slap fight? Of the slap
Hug
box?
I have no idea. I don't know who won. I didn't watch it, actually. What I want to talk about is how boxing has just failed itself over and over again. I've seen the highlights. I've seen the clips of Logan hitting someone with his wrist.
Slap box.
He's throwing hooks, and he's literally contacting here. That's not even
boxing.
how girls fight. Like, at least they get you with like a palm.
First round of that fight legit looked like me when I would play Street Fighter, and I was just hitting buttons and just hoping for the best. Like, the dude's just swinging and going crazy on it. It was ridiculous.
And the fact that
then it turned into a hug fest.
Yeah, it turned into a hug fest. The hug fest back and forth was ridiculous. And
But they
everybody's
made a shit ton of money.
everybody's all about it. Here's the thing. I will give Logan Paul credit that he got into the ring with a true boxer in Floyd Mayweather. Unlike his brother, who wants to always box UFC fighters.
Are we calling Floyd Mayweather a boxer or a runner?
Or a
he's
dancer.
more of a dancer right now.
He's a dancer.
Always.
Yeah.
That's what the thing is. My thing is
That's
more
the only
about
reason it went 8 rounds.
My thing is more about social media. The reason I was okay with this topic as being my thing is that people are like, this is the bastardization of boxing. Bullshit. Boxing has bastardized itself since fucking Mike Tyson left. There hasn't been any good fighters.
Especially at the heavyweight division.
There hasn't been anything worth watching.
Awful.
Even the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight took way too long to get there, and by the time it got there, it was a joke. They were both too old. One was already a fucking senator of Puerto Rico. Like, boxing ruined itself. They sat on the sidelines and watched UFC take everything from them. The boxing fans will always be there. The technicality, liking the footwork, liking the dancing, praising Mayweather. The way you make money in a sport is getting average idiots like me to watch. And we're here watching for knockouts. We're here watching for people to go to sleep. We're here watching for blood. UFC took all of that to the next level and left boxing in the 1950s where it belongs. So anybody that buys these boxing matches deserves what they get.
That's the problem, is that the society still feeds into this shit, still pays for it, and Mayweather continues to cash in on it.
The only winner was YouTube. YouTube is the winner.
They say Mayweather made more money in 10 minutes than Jordan made in his NBA career.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, he made a ridiculous amount of money, and that's the thing is as you look at this, and to your point, it's YouTube's the winner because they're the ones going to be getting all the views because everybody's going to be going and looking at Logan Paul and
just the fact that Logan Paul was made by YouTube, Jake Paul was made by YouTube.
Yeah.
So everyone, their brothers going, oh my god, I'm buying a camera and putting stuff out on YouTube. I could be the next billionaire because I just find 12-year-olds that think I'm funny.
Well, so here's the only thing. Here's the only thing that's going in that direction is you get some of these like. Everybody remember Celebrity Deathmatch?
Oh yeah.
Yes, the best.
Right. They're trying to get some of the exhibitions before that are the ones that they're trying to get people to tune in for. Some of these former NFL stars coming out.
Chad
Ochocinco getting in there, not looking too bad. Like it wasn't horrible. But the biggest thing that gives boxing the joke name is when you call it boxing and you have a YouTube star versus a UFC fighter. I want to see the YouTube star take on the UFC fighter in the fucking octagon, not the fucking squared circle.
It will be over in 8
I
seconds.
was about to say, I don't want to see any of that. I want to see the best of the best in UFC go against the best of the best in the UFC because it's a damn good product.
But I would like to see actual celebrity deathmatch. I'd like to see an actual celebrity versus an actual celebrity beat the living shit out of each other. That would be awesome.
That would be funny.
No rules. No boundaries. 2 topics. 30 seconds each. It's time for the 2-minute warning.
All right, Scott.
Next time I do the gang signs, we're going to have to go to James because he's starting to do them way better than I do. He's over there off camera doing them.
All right, we'll do that. All right, fellas, it's time for the 2-minute warning.
Who's reading them this week?
Who's reading them?
All right, question 1. Question 2 is a mystery, so James.
All right, apparently James is reading that one. All right, I'll go first then.
All right.
All right, decisions looming on changing the college football playoff. Do you think they should expand into how many seeds?
How many seeds is it at right now?
4.
8, maybe?
It's the only right answer.
I don't know. I think 8. I think it gives you it's that whole team of any given Sunday, right? I would love to see it
Saturday.
in 8. Saturday, whatever. Jesus Christ.
Listen here, I could deal with 8. I could be okay with that. But it's no matter what you expand it to, you're still going to have those teams on the outside looking in that were complaining that they should be in it and they should be expanded more and all of that. So it really doesn't matter if you expand from 4 to 8. I'm happy that they expanded to 4, and I'd be okay with them staying at 4. But I think the max that you go to, yes, to your point, is 8. Especially in football, you got to remember these guys aren't playing back to backs. These guys are playing once a week. And, you can't stretch the season out too much, and you can't take too many regular season games.
You have to expand it because every other sport, the national title is way more. I'm not saying it needs to be 64 or 30 something,
Different sport,
but 8.
though.
I don't care.
Go ahead, Ryan.
And the second question, do you guys think GMs or presidents of any sport should be fined for tampering for social media posts?
This is one that I am truly honestly tossed up about because I get the idea that these guys are businessmen. They make decisions. They know what they're doing. And so, yes, could they tamper and pull a guy from another team and have that guy go, yeah, we're gonna come see me. We'll take care of you. Yeah, but at the same time, get over it. Offer that guy more money if you don't want somebody tampering him.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just think that social media is a platform for you to be able to use from a public standpoint.
You're not hiding anything.
You're not hiding anything. Anybody can see it, right? So I don't have a problem with GMs voicing their opinions or talking to other players through social media. I think that, I guess, where it becomes kind of sketchy is in the DMs and that kind of thing that are private. There's no difference in that versus just texting somebody, which would be considered tampering. So I feel like that's where you would draw the line.
Get rid of the tampering rules. It's the most baseball rule ever.
Jesus Christ.
All right, Scott, good show. Stay tuned for the after hours. We got the Would You Rather segment.
It's back.
Ryan's excited. His favorite part of the show.
Ryan, now I gotta clean up the table. He was worried about me skeeting. He skeeted all over the place over there.
Skate.
All right, guys, make sure you check us out on our website, www.birdlandbs.com. Check out all our episodes, learn about each of us, contact us, get some Birdland BS gear, which, by the way, going through in the process, adding a bunch of gear in there. So make sure you go check it out, adding in some different hats, adding in some different shirts, adding in some backpacks. A lot of cool stuff coming, even some stuff for the kids. Get the kiddos in that stuff.
Yeah.
All right? Make sure you also follow us on all of our social media pages. At Birdland BS is how you find us. At each of our handles, it's all below the screen. Make sure you check it out. Also, for those of you that have asked, if you want to donate, you have asked about donating for the show, check out that scrolling text at the bottom. It shows you how to donate. We appreciate it, guys. It goes right back into the show, we promise, because that's all we do. As Steven Severs learned this week, we are not in a giant room of green screen, but we kind of are. Make sure you also, if you want your opinion or topic heard on the show, make sure you reach out to us. Use the hashtag that's BLVS or reach out to us individually. We'll bring it up on the show, as Craig Zero always does. Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, that's how you find us. Make sure you drop a review so we can be found easier for all your friends. Make sure you share those while you're there as well. Thanks for tuning in, as always, each week, guys. We'll see you next Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. For Fred, myself, Ryan, James, and Drew, who's not here and off tonight, we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Background video in every section.
Time for the after party.
He was gonna roll the Terps video during every segment of the show.
It's worth
And
it.
there it is. There it is.
It's worth it.
Oh man, good show, guys. That was a good one. I think we had some good content in there. I know we had a lot of people chatting in.
Were there any comments or anything out there that got brought up later that we should bring in? Or?
From O's on, it was basically Drew. I'll look through and see if there's something else. Go Simone from Steph Summers.
Love it.
I know
Love
David chimed in. He was checking out, but he
David
said he'll check.
Missler.
Yeah.
Hey guys, can't stay tonight. Leaving like
Leaving a like,
Leaving a like and I'll listen
to the
back.
playback.
Yep.
Appreciate it, David.
Yep. Chuck telling me it's nice in a lot of pro facilities. It's nicer than almost all the pro facilities.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's still absolutely some schools that have arguments versus us, but we're in the argument for the top one. There's no doubt.
Drew says, I'm not one to say the sky is falling, but I'm really beginning to doubt him ever playing meaningful baseball. I'm assuming he's talking about Kerstad there.
Yes.
Yeah. I hope that's not the case, but again, you got to put his health first.
As a person, you hope that that it works out for him health wise.
It's his heart, man. You don't mess around with the heart.
Yeah, no. But at the same, but from an organizational and business standpoint, it's kind of one of those things. Like I said, you kind of take a step back, especially knowing our history. And now, I will tell you, if there is another injury from a draft pick that comes out of the draft this year, I'm going to be scratching my head about what the hell's going on, what has changed, and whatever we were doing before in the medicals, I'd like to see come back because this is too clear. It would be 2 clear misses in a row for me.
Right.
Chuck was complaining that all our cast-offs end up being top-tier pitchers. Why can't we catch somebody's cast-off that goes to the next level and beyond? So just kind of, just what keeps happening.
Yeah.
Only one direction.
Ricky Trainer says, trade Davis for a bucket of balls and half a sandwich.
And I informed
Sign
him
me up for that 3 years ago.
Tell you what,
4 years ago.
I'll trade you Davis. I'll trade you Davis, and on top of getting Davis, I'll give you a year worth of Boogs.
I'll give you Davis and any of the 3 All-Stars you guys talked about.
Nope. Deal's off.
Yeah.
Deal's off. Not
Deal
happening.
is off.
Oh man.
The amount of money we owe
right.
him would be worth dumping it.
All right. So who's got the first Would You Rather tonight?
I can do it if you want.
All right. Go ahead. You started with the first one.
All right.
I got a good one, too.
This kind of goes in line similar to our first Would You Rather with the whole duck-sized horses thing, if you guys remember.
Only one correct answer there.
Right? All right. So would you rather be attacked by dogs every time they see you, all breeds, all dogs,
Oof.
or be attacked by birds every time they see you? All birds. We're talking eagles. We're talking, 'cause these things get fucking huge. We're talking any bird every time they see you. A lot more birds in the world than there are dogs. Dogs can do more damage in the immediate, you would think, depending on what kind of bird you're going against.
This is unfair for me. Mine's a simple answer.
Scott's like, I'm a dog whisperer. It's going to be the birds because I can tell any dog to stop from attacking me.
That's exactly why I would beat the dogs.
The dogs are still eating you in this scenario.
I don't know.
Scott.
I'll tell you what. I ain't fucking with a fucking eagle in those talons.
Right.
Yeah,
All
nope.
those big ass
I'll
birds. A
take
lot
do-
of big
I'll take
birds
dogs.
out there.
I'll take dogs.
I took the girls to the zoo today, and I can confirm there are a lot of birds with a lot of big ass talons. They
Drew says the
also-
movie Birds.
They,
Enough said.
yes, they also are a lot less predictable about when you're going to see them, and they come at you a lot fucking faster. So I'll take the dogs, and I'll be carrying a 3-wood, and we won't have any more dogs.
James, what's your answer?
I think I'd rather have the birds than the dogs. 'Cause I had too many dogs come after me when I used to drive for UPS, and it was just a fucking battle, dude.
Yeah.
Just imagine if those dogs were coming from the air.
For me, I think I'd rather have the dogs as well because I can predict where most dogs are going to be, and I can predict what kind of barriers are going to be in front of them, meaning fences and things like that, that I can plan my routes accordingly. Yeah, there's going to be times I'm going to run into dogs that are on leashes that are just going to come at me out of nowhere,
That's
right?
why the 3-wood's for.
Fred's just going to walk around in a bite suit.
I'll do that too. That'd be fun. But birds, man.
Put that on the... We're going to record that. He's getting in a bite suit. He's getting in a bite suit.
Birds, you don't know where they are, what kind they are, how many there are, and I'm telling you, when those things start flocking home for fucking...
Even the small ones would be a nightmare. Think
Yes.
about how a hummingbird, how fast that motherfucker is. Holy shit. You wouldn't even be able to see it. They're so small and fast. No thank you on the birds.
all right. I got one more for you really quickly then. This would be funny. So, would you rather smell like poo and everyone can smell it but you, or smell like poo and only you can smell it?
Oh, it's easy.
That's easy?
Yeah.
What is it?
I'd rather me smell the poo.
You'd rather deal with
Yeah.
it. So, on the other end, you can't smell it. Doesn't bother you one bit. But you'd rather absorb that and smell that all day, every day than anybody else being able to smell it.
Correct.
Okay. All right, Ryan.
Full agreement.
Yeah.
You get used to anything. If you have like a constant level of pain, if you have a constant level of whatever, like you would eventually just not smell it. That's just what you smell like. People with terrible breath don't really realize
That's a
it
bad
anymore.
question for people
That's
from
true.
Maryland that have visited Dundalk. It's a bad question.
That is a great comparison. It's true.
For me, it would be rather... You guys know my stomach. Everybody else can smell that shit. I ain't doing it. I don't
Scott
give a
goes
shit.
the selfish route. I'm not smelling it.
You
Everybody
guys
else
give me
can.
shit when I go the happy-go-lucky
I know.
dad route.
Yeah.
I get shit when I go the unselfish route.
There's a lot of shit in this question.
I am shocked that he's not like, well, I want to only smell it so that my son doesn't have to smell it.
fuck him. He can tolerate. I tolerate his shit all the
I need
time.
my wife and son to be happy.
All right.
Anybody else
was
got
yours?
one? That was so my answer would be I'd much rather smell it myself than anybody else. I'm
right.
too embarrassed by shit like that anyway.
All right. So here's one for you. Would you rather accidentally send a dick pic to your mom
Oh man.
or a colleague?
A mom or a colleague?
Let me rephrase that. I'm gonna go a step further. Your mom or your boss?
Mom.
My mom I could apologize to and quickly explain that. And plus her vision's not very good, so I don't know how much she's
don't know
actually
how to use
seeing
a
down there.
smartphone.
Plus, she'd be like, I seen that shit.
Yeah, right. Like I saw
I
it.
made that shit.
I
saw
saw
it
it
get
when it
bigger.
was like, an inch smaller, when you were a kid.
Yeah. I used to change that diaper. Mom, no problem.
He photoshopped that anyways.
What's your answer?
Mine would be the same.
Yeah.
It would be the same. It's easier. It's easier to explain off than anything else.
Do you have one, Ryan?
Sure, I'll give one. So would you rather be able to fly, but you can only fly at 1 mile per hour, or be able to run at 20 miles per hour?
Run at 20 mile an hour all day long. All day long. So the height doesn't matter, but you can only move at 1 mile an hour.
Yeah, you can
right?
fly anywhere you want to fly, but you don't get the added benefit of you can be somewhere in 5 seconds. You're
See,
still going.
if I can run 20, what is it? What was it?
It's 1 mile an hour flight, 20 mile an hour running. So basically, you're like tripling the amount you could run. Normal people, not me and you. Probably 5 times the amount running.
I feel like that's doing, if I'm running 20 miles in an hour, I feel like that's doing really well for my career as well. There's many other ways that I can make money off of that. I can't do shit with flying 1 mile an hour.
Flying is like the top.
Do you have the ability
thing,
to
like-
control when you stop at 20 miles an hour?
I would assume.
But if you're
I literally
flying,
made this up right now.
if you're quote unquote flying at 1 mile an hour, you're not really flying. You're like fucking floating.
Floating.
I know fucking balloons that move faster than 1 mile an hour
it's like
in the
It's
air.
a helicopter versus an airplane. You're still flying, but you're just not going as fast as something.
But I'm gonna get passed by a balloon and be like, there you go, buddy.
All right, walking or running speed. Then could you fly, but you can only fly at 5 miles an hour, or would you like to run at 20 miles an hour?
5 miles an hour.
I'm
I
going
still
That's
run.
like a regular run.
I'm still running.
I'm running all day.
I'm still
running
running
all day.
If they're equal, I'm flying.
Yeah, that's clear.
Yeah.
Flying is.
What's your answer?
I think mine would be the 1 versus 5 would change it. At 1, I'm going to take the running, and at 5, I fly because that's as fast as I can go now. And flying would be pretty sweet. So I'm not really losing anything, in the moment.
I feel like the novelty of flying, especially at 5 mile an hour, would wear off really quick. But being able to run really fast, like 20 mile an hour, like I said, there's guys in the NFL that make careers off of that, just being able to run 20 mile an hour. If you can catch a football, you can be a kick returner and make a ton of money just returning kicks in the NFL. What do you got, James?
I think I'd rather take the flying because if I need to go fast, I'll just get in the car. But at least to say, hey, I can fucking fly, it's pretty impressive.
All right.
That was like the burnout answer.
All right. Since you had 2, I got one more for you.
I got one.
All right. let me do this one.
Right.
Let me do this one real quick, and then we'll go to James because this one's fucked
the
up.
greatest segment ever.
Fucked up and keeps with it. Would you rather have 10 testicles?
Oh, man.
What's
the other option?
We getting a porno.
What's the other option?
Drew puts up the Scott answer. I'm picking running, and then I can make tons of money for my kid and wife.
All right. Would you rather have 10 testicles
I'm having a hard time reining in 2 over here. You got to load 10.
or 1 watermelon-sized testicle?
I think for placement purposes, I'd rather have 10 testicles because I can kind of move those around in any which way. One, what are you going to do? You're going to end up sitting on that motherfucker, and that is not going to be comfortable. And the weight behind that, I feel like 10 normal-sized testicles isn't going to weigh a whole lot, but 1 watermelon-sized testicle is going to weigh a whole lot. That's going to be a whole lot of pull on that sack of yours.
Either way, it's to make your deck look a lot smaller.
It does not go well for dick pics.
Jesus Christ.
Ryan?
I'll go with the 10. I'm very similar. You can't hide a watermelon. 5, or 10, you probably can't hide either, but you got a shot. You just wear. You can buy some. At least you can wear some Jenkos. You can buy some old school Jenkos and be all right.
I need suspenders for my ball. What do you got, James? What's
James,
your
you want
answer?
10 nuts?
10 nuts or 1 ginormous
To be
nut?
honest, since I don't know why Scott bring up these porno.
Is it a seamless water bottle?
I'd rather have the 10 because maybe I can have 10 women just sucking on it.
Wait, it wasn't 10 dicks. It was 10 testicles.
You never had a girl sucking on your testicles?
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Man, that's a whole lot of heads and a whole lot of balls down there. I don't know.
I can please.
That's a lot to process.
Hey, I can please a lot.
Man, this show just went to the dirtiest place it's ever been.
Yeah,
200 episodes in, people. We did it.
What are we at? 198. Almost there. Almost
Two
there.
testicles short.
Try to cancel it before 200.
Oh man.
All right, James, what's your question?
All right. Would you rather walk barefooted in a public restroom or get poisoned?
Get poison like ivy or like poison and die?
Poison in general. Like any kind of poison.
Yeah, if I'm gonna die from the poison, of course I'm gonna walk on the public restroom. But if I'm not gonna die from it,
poison oak or poison sumac.
yeah, if I'm gonna be itchy for a couple of weeks, I'd rather do that than step on some bullshit somebody else peed on the bathroom floor and did whatever else on the bathroom floor. I can deal. Listen, I had poison ivy a lot when I was a kid. A lot. I can deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what kind of poison you're talking about, I agree. But like, if you're talking like something that can mess you up a little bit more,
I see shit out in the sidewalks at work all the time.
It's true. At least urine
it's
is
Baltimore
sterile.
City. You got to decide whether it's a person or a dog poop.
So what's your answer then, Ryan? Are you walking across a public bathroom? Hold on. Let me paint the picture.
Let's
a little
do
bit.
it. Give me it.
So let's say you're at a Ravens game, right, with
good.
thousands
Concrete
and
floors.
thousands of drunk men
Yes.
that have pissed all over the fucking place, right?
Yes.
And vomited.
Yes.
And there's no air conditioner in there, so it sucks. It smells bad. And now you've got to walk around that bathroom barefoot, or you're itchy for a week. And you got some calamine lotion, you're taking oatmeal baths, you're feeling better.
Do I have cuts on my feet?
It's up to you. Huh?
Yeah, it depends on depends on the condition of your feet.
house.
Do you walk around with cuts on your feet all the time?
No, not often. So if I do not have cuts on my feet,
If you're walking around with cuts on your feet, you're doing drugs the wrong way, Ryan. You don't have to go that low.
You might want to start wearing shoes, bro.
Or if you're trying to kill yourself, you're going about it the wrong way.
if I have, as the fake medical expert on this show, if I have intact skin and I'm not walking on a needle that's in this bathroom, I will walk across the floor and then I will wash my feet as I wash my dirty ass hands that have your hands today have touched
That you
human
then have to
urine
walk
and
back
poop
out
that you're
across
not
the same
aware
floor.
of.
What's up, Chandler? Hey, man, you came in at the wrong time, brother. This is the after hours. We're doing Would You Rathers.
Yeah.
It's
This stuff, it's covered in shit and piss. So, like, my hands already need to be washed. All right?
Drew says walk on bad floors and clean your feet. Fuck
Yep.
having poison ivy bullshit. Plus, I could give poison ivy to my kids. Oh, geez.
He could play a fake medical expert on TV. Drew knows.
Like I said, I had poison ivy. We played baseball in my backyard, and there was a dividing
He was
fence.
a catcher, by the way.
I was a catcher. That's a very, very good one. We played baseball in my backyard, and there was a dividing fence that went between my house and my neighbors, and it was covered in ivy. And every time we'd hit the ball back there, you'd have to go through the ivy to get it. And us being kids, we were, idiots and not
Tell
paying
your parents
attention.
to spray it on the ivy?
We did eventually, but after that was like the third or fourth time that I had poison ivy. It was so bad. So, yeah, I'd really have to think that one through, but I'd probably take the ivy.
All right.
All right.
Great show, everybody.
Great show, guys.
Did Ryan give us a would you rather?
Yeah, he did.
Hey, don't
Fly and
don't forget, next week we're going to have would you rather be a catcher or would you rather be doing something else?
pitcher.
All right, guys. We'll see